Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a 2 p.m. Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
Russell reporting live midday from sunny Los Angeles.
No, it's the morning, man.
Well, yeah, midday. Well, yeah, 11 a.m. So that's late
No
morning.
es mediodía.
That's right. It's not technically
Es
midday
mañana.
yet. not noon yet. Yes, but it's around midday, around the middle of the day. I consider it's the beginning of lunchtime. I always like an early lunch because I was never a big like breakfast guy, so I would always think of 11 o'clock as the beginning of like legit lunchtime because I would always look forward to it since I usually got hungry early because I wouldn't eat breakfast usually.
Now I think my body adjusted from the jet lag because yesterday I was hungry at like 10:30 because my body thought it was 1:30.
Thought it was 1:30. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, we had a busy day yesterday. We did the Jimmy Dore show yesterday. Russell started, what is this, like your fourth stint hosting, I would say? Your fourth separate stint? Third or fourth?
Wow,
Something
man.
like that. Yeah.
I mean, you had the long January, and then I went to New Orleans. Then I came back, so that was number
That was
2.
And then early April was 3. This is 4.
Yeah, this is 4, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So 4-time returning champion Russell Dobular hosting the Jimmy Dore show last night. And then I had a doubleheader last night. I went right to RBN for a fun post-duopoly show. So that led into today. Tomorrow, Russell's hosting Jimmy again. I'll be on at 2 p.m. on Rumble exclusively with our friend Nick Cruz. He's going to fill in for Russell tomorrow and help me out. And we might have Kit jump on that stream as well. I'm not sure. Depends because he's got some on-the-ground journalism to do in the morning that could run into the afternoon, but we'll see. But I will at least have Nick with me tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and then we'll be live on the Jimmy Dore show again tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So lots going on. Very busy times. Thank you all for being here. 561 strong between YouTube and Twitter. 585 strong over on Rumble. Rumble kicking some ass today. That's great to see. We appreciate all of you being here. We did a segment last time we were here, not a full segment, but we mentioned that we spent Saturday, April 20th, 420. We had a very, very productive 420 over at the Do Dissidents podcast. Neither Russ nor myself are partakers in the festivities, so we were free to walk around the Bronx and collect some signatures for our good pal Jose Vega, who is running for Congress as
everybody else was baked.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was slow out. I mean, there's a Yankee game there, and we were right near Yankee Stadium, but there was not that much.
Jose, as soon as we got there, Jose pulled out the sticky icky.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
exactly.
Yo, my peeps, and we were like, nah, we don't smoke.
No,
everybody was blitzed, man.
Yeah.
That really helped with signature collecting, though, because
yeah,
you share the peace pipe with people, they're much more inclined to sign up.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's true. Maybe it did work to our advantage on the signatory end. But Jose's team, in all seriousness, was great. They are super on it. They're on the ball. They were active. They were engaging, and it was a great success. We signed a lot of people up that day. So we promise you guys some more video of the canvassing trip. And we have some courtesy of our new friend Nathan over at NSSN News. That is his Substack and YouTube channel. So we encourage you guys to go over there and sign up. This great young kid. He's only 15. He's actually a kid, a 15-year-old kid with a camera. Followed us around all day. Shot this footage. Interviewed some people.
I was very impressed.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with that kid. I said, how old are you? He said 15. I said, yo, man, when I was 15, I was stealing cars and dealing drugs, man. So you stay on the straight and narrow, man. One day he's going to be John Heilman. He's going to be like, yeah, I used to run around with those independents. No. Yeah.
No,
Hopefully
he was really
not.
good. He was really sharp. We talked to him a bunch because he hung out with us all day, and he was great. So yeah, go over and check out his channel. It's NSSN News. He has a Substack and he has a YouTube channel, and we're going to show some footage that he shot in just a second. We actually have 687 on Rumble. Rumble beat the YouTubers to it today. How do you like that?
Damn.
There we go. And now we're at 5 over here. We're getting very close. Up there we go.
Woo.
All righty.
Doesn't anybody Iron Maiden, man. We got to have them on as guests.
Yeah, Russell wants to get Bruce Dickinson on as a guest. Indeed, that's his goal. That's
We're
his
going
goal.
to the show in November, man. Come on.
Hey, it can happen. Stranger things have happened, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a look at some footage. We're going to full screen this and get rid of our Do Dissidents logo for a minute, since we want our friend Nathan's logo to have the privileged spot in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Here's some footage from 420 canvassing for our friend Jose Vega in the Bronx.
All right, my name's Jose Vega. I am a candidate for Congress running against Richie Torres here in the Bronx, specifically New York 15. I am fed up with the genocide in Gaza. I am fed up with the genocide here in the United States. Our foreign policy is a reflection of our domestic policy. What we do to other countries is what we do to our own country and our own neighborhoods and our own communities. So today we have people out here petitioning to get me on the ballot as an independent. As an independent, I require 3,500 valid signatures. We want to meet at least triple that requirement, if not blow it out the water. And I have a quorum of people who came out to support me. My friends over at Do Dissidents came out to support me. They are absolutely wonderful. The things that people have doing to make this campaign possible, the way people have been bending over backwards for my campaign to make sure we can get on the ballot, has been insanely moving and inspiring to me. It keeps me focused and committed, and it gives me a responsibility to them that I have to make sure I give everything I can to this campaign. And I'm just honestly really happy people decided that I'm important enough, or that the campaign is important enough for people to fly out here, come out, spend their Saturday and Sunday with us. It's just been honestly amazing and moving, and I'm on the moon right now.
So we're here outside the Jose Vega petitioning. I'm here with Russell Dabular. What are you thinking? Why are you here to help Jose petition?
I feel like we cannot completely abandon electoral politics if we're going to build an overall movement, but we can't work within the two parties. If Jose were running as a Democrat, we would not get involved in it. We'd wish him luck. We'd love him. I've shoulder to shoulder challenged the evil interdimensional being that is Rachel Maddow. We have fought shoulder to shoulder against the Maddow beast. But if we were running as a Democrat, we wouldn't be here. We have got to start somewhere to overthrow the duopoly. It cannot just be talking in the comment section of videos. There's got to be real world action, grassroots organizing, union organizing, general strikes, and yes, electoral efforts, but from outside the rigged two-party system. So that's what we're here to support.
So you're petitioning, and can you explain what is the petitioning, how does it work, and how have you been doing it so far?
People grab a clipboard with my my petition sheets. Anyone who's a registered New York 15 voter can sign my petition that just basically says I get the right to be on the ballot.
Here with Keaton Weiss. Keaton, what brought you out here to help petition for Jose?
Well, I got to know Jose, I think a little over a year ago by now. Yeah, a little over a year ago now when he did the AOC intervention that went viral. You know, we reached out to him with our podcast and interviewed him, I think the day after or 2 days after. And I just find him to be a very magnetic person. He's a very interesting guy. He's a guy who's not easily definable in terms of his views or his sort of ideology. But for all of the mystique around, you know, what is the LaRouche organization? Who are these people? What are they about? He's a regular New York guy, and I'm a New Yorker. My father was born and raised in the Bronx. I was raised just an hour north of the Bronx. I lived in the city for a bit. He's just a regular dude with a great love for human beings, and the incumbent now is a very sick, evil person, a very bad person, as they say. It's a very sick guy. And so I'm happy to help Jose do what he can to, if not knock him off, non-violently knock him off, should I say, to at least raise as much hell.
We're out here, obviously, getting signatures from registered voters so that independent candidates can get onto the ballot. Candidates like Jose and Diane. And, you know, my experience so far with meeting people is that they're quite fed up with the type of typical Republican or Democrat politician, and even some people that might not express their opinion too directly, like they want to get people on the ballot, to give people the option of who to vote for. So that's what I'm trying to do. How about you, Ashley?
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that Jose and Diane can pose the threat that they are with their ideas against the Republicans and Democrats. And so there's a hefty goal of 10,000 signatures for Jose and at least 96,000 for Diane, just to make sure they get on the ballot and don't have any issues when they're up against the Board of Elections. So yeah, we're all working hard to meet that goal.
Thank you.
So there's the crew gathered around the table. Had a big crowd there that day. Once again, shout out to Nathan and NSSN News. A great little. He's not actually. I was going to say great little kid. He's actually a big kid. He's actually taller than me. That guy's a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm only 6'1". I know there's a lot of speculation because I look smaller on the podcast, but NSSN News, if you want to go and support an up-and-coming independent roving journalist. He did a great job on that video, so thank you, Nathan, for being there, and I want to make sure we give a shout-out to him. But yeah, there's the crew. That's probably about a third of the total people who showed up, and so it was a great time had by all. And what that woman was saying at the end of the piece there, she was saying how they need 3,500 signatures for Jose and they need 45,000 for Diane Sare. That number, by the way, is courtesy of Andrew Cuomo, who on his way out the door tripled the amount of signatures required for third-party candidates to get on the ballot, from 15,000 to 45,000. Jill Stein just put a video out saying that because she was in Albany.
Hang on, but I thought we have to elect Democrats to protect democracy.
Yeah,
that's what they keep telling us. The Republicans are anti-democracy, and Democrats are for democracy. That's very strange.
Yeah,
that a notoriously corrupt Democratic governor did that on the way out the door in a state that still has vestiges of the corrupt Tammany Hall political machine. Inextricably tied up with this one-party state Democratic Party.
Yeah, absolutely. And Diane Sare got on the ballot last time. She's running for Senate. And so their goal
was
now
that
is
under 15. Was that under the 15,000 regime?
I think it would have been under 50. Well, did she run? Did she run in 2022? If she ran in 22, that would have been probably 45. I'll have to ask Jose how many times she got that. But yeah, she qualified last time, and it's looking good. Jose doesn't want to disclose numbers because he doesn't want people to sit back and think, oh, we got this. He doesn't want a tortoise and hare type of situation. So they are continuing to pound the pavement, but their numbers are strong. We got a lot done that day. That team that we just showed you there in the video, those guys were racking up signatures all day long. I didn't do that well. I did okay. I got like 2 pages worth, but some of these guys are page after page, boom, boom, boom. They were knocking it out. They were fantastic. So it's a great team. And one of the things that I noticed was overwhelming support for the idea of an independent campaign. I only had one woman who was a partisan Democrat who wouldn't sign because she thought of a third party as a spoiler, which is, it's absurd on it. First of all, in the Bronx, the Republican is the real spoiler. Like an independent has a better chance of getting elected in the Bronx than a Republican. The Republican is kind of the third party in that situation. But anyway, I didn't argue. I tried. Well, this is just so that he's on the ballot. You don't have to vote for him, but you didn't want him on the ballot because you're going to take votes from the Democrats. But that was one person, literally. And I talked to over 100 people that day. The response, other than that, overwhelming. Oh, good. An independent. I'm fed up with Democrats and Republicans. Russell, you said you actually changed a person's mind, right?
Yeah, I had a guy say, who's he running against? I said, Richie Torres. He said, oh, I like Richie Torres. I said, Richie Torres takes the most money from AIPAC in Congress. He goes, he takes money from AIPAC, so where's your guy on AIPAC? I say, he's against it. He said, all right, I'll sign. That's it. This is what a lot of organizers have, we have to look to the past. I think a lot of radical movements of the past and revolutionary movements of the past do have a lot to teach us, both in their successes and their failures, because they ran into the same kinds of issues and the same kinds of problems. This conversation about how the poor, the working class, are the people that you really need for a revolution. This is a very old conversation that's taken place in many contexts in many nations. That's what you really see when you go out to a place like the South Bronx. These people, they're so much less indoctrinated than the people that you would encounter in a more upscale neighborhood. And that's true from coast to coast. That's true wherever you go. Those people are less indoctrinated. This is part of why, we, for as long as we've had the show, we've kind of had this debate and conversation about culture wars and cultural things. That is exactly why I have always been so vehement about the need for any legitimate economic left movement to distance itself from a lot of the social engineering projects of the so-called new left, because that's how you lose those people. And I think that's by design. They don't want you to be able to bring those people in. They want you caught up in just absurdities and just nonsense that has nothing to do with most people's lives. That is why it is so important to distance yourself from it, because those are the people you can actually work with, but you have to come off as somebody they want to work with. You can't come off like some snotty asshole who doesn't approve of them, as a lot of people who consider themselves or represent themselves as the left do. And then they turn these people off.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is a big part of that, I think. And what is a second huge part of that, which, like I said, I saw in action immediately, not being associated with the Democratic Party. It was like I felt so light out there. I felt so free out there when I was doing this kind of shit for Bernie. And I didn't do ballot access stuff for Bernie, but I did, canvassing and door knocking, knowing that question was coming. Well, are you a Democrat, Republican? He's a Democrat, but he doesn't really like the Democrats. So, it puts you in such a position of weakness. Whereas when you say you're an independent, you define the conversation on your own terms. All of a sudden, the person is much more interested in what you have to say, because when you tell the person you're an independent, they don't make any kind of assumptions about you. They come in, oh, okay, now I have to pay attention to what this guy's saying, because independent can mean anything. So then you turn the flyer upside down and you show them the card and you show he wants to end the war in Ukraine and the genocide in Gaza. Now you get a conversation going. It's so much easier and so much freer and so much more enjoyable for me and for the person on the other side. That's why getting signatures was not nearly as hard as I thought it might be. And I think a lot of people got very disillusioned with this whole process because of their experience with the Bernie Sanders campaign. But that's why it's important to understand the difference between, and this is why we've argued for a long time at this point, we've argued for the independent route, because when you are canvassing for a Democrat, your target voters are registered Democrats, which means, as I've said, I've been saying this literally for 5 years now, they are less persuadable, right? Like they are not as open to having their minds changed. So when Russell talks about this guy, well, yeah, he's campaigning against Richie Torres. Oh, I like Richie Torres. Well, did you know Richie Torres takes AIPAC money? Oh, no, I didn't. I don't like that. Does your guy want to take AIPAC money? No, my guy is anti-AIPAC. I'll sign. You can have that discussion with someone when you're representing an independent candidate. When your target voter is an indoctrinated blue no matter who lawn sign in this house, we believe this, that, the Ukraine flag in the window, you can't convince that person of anything. They are the most closed-minded people out there. And so when you get out there with an independent campaign where you define the terms of the conversation from second one, anything can happen. And every conversation is much more interesting and ultimately much more rewarding, and it makes those conversions possible. And the second point I'll make is that there is no substitute for doing what we and Jose's team did last weekend. There's like being online, supporting independent media, sharing independent media, articles, stories, videos, podcasts. That's all wonderful. If we didn't think that was important, we wouldn't be doing it. But that is a supplement to boots on the ground. It can't be a substitute, because the only way to actually make sure you grab someone, not literally, but in a metaphorical sense, you grab someone, keep them in your sight, and convince them that you're right. There's really no better way to do that than face to face. And in Russell's case, he changed one person's mind. Now think of how much time it took to actually change someone from a Richie Torres voter to, hopefully, knock on wood, a Jose Vega voter. Think of all the time it took. It took that whole day. Most people's minds you didn't change. They either signed or didn't. You had to get up. You had to schlep in. You had to spend all day on the street, schlep out. It's 12 hours, a whole day to change one mind. This is why mass politics is mass politics, because the only real way to do this is to do what Russell did times 100, times 1,000, times 10,000, times 1,000,000, times 10 million. You just got to multiply that process over and over and over. And it's doable, and it's a lot more doable. I know people get nihilistic about this, about the game is rigged against third parties. I'm not going to argue it's not rigged against third parties, but I would say it's more doable in a third-party movement than it is inside a Democratic Party, where the set of people you are trying to influence is not, they are beyond any mind changing. They cannot be influenced.
Well, and it's not only that. You have to look at the big picture. I believe the direction the left has to go in is to create something that it has not truly had in decades. A counterculture, in the true sense of a counterculture. That is not just art, although I think that's important. It's a different culture of politics. It's a different culture of media. It's a different culture of literature. It's a counterculture. There has been no counterculture on the left literally in decades. There has been, by the time you get into the 80s, the 90s, what's called counterculture is really a consumer preference. It's consumer indications. You like Nirvana. That's not a counterculture.
Right.
We have not had that in a very long time, an actual anti-establishment counterculture. That is what we need to do. And just like you go back to the 50s with the beatniks, it became a big thing because eventually it caught on, but they were completely obscure originally. These were people in little coffee houses playing bongos and reciting. The average person had no idea any of that was going on. That is the position we find ourselves in today, where really you got to build it from scratch. And political campaigns like this, different ways of doing things, different ways of seeing, that is the essence of the purpose of a counterculture. That's the whole point. By definition, it is okay, what do people say to you when you talk about how bad this system is and it all has to be burned down? What do they say to you? Okay, so what's your idea? Be the change you want to be. You have to be able to answer that. You will not be able to answer that if you don't build anything, if all you're doing is criticizing what is. So this, and I don't feel it can only be this.
Right, sure.
But this has to be part of it. Finding electoral efforts that challenge this established order that needs to end.
Yes, I agree. 100%. And you can go to votevega.nyc if you want to learn more. And if you want to sign up to volunteer, we got a super chat from Jose, actually, who's watching right now. Says, we're still petitioning and we'll be again this Saturday. People should sign up. Come out. Thanks for the $5, Jose. Appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Yes, you can go sign up, votevega.nyc. Their goal is 10,000 in 10 days. This is day 7 right now. Well, day 8, actually, right? Because day 0 was last Tuesday. But they got to keep racking them up. And they are hard at work doing that. So, yes, you can go sign up there. Dan, thanks for the heart. Appreciate that. Always good to have a little heart. All righty, let's go to some Rumble rants, shall we? Let's see. What do we got here? Where's my screen at? Here we go. Goldfoot, thanks for the $5. Ghost covered Iron Maiden's Phantom of the Opera on their recent EP, Phantomime. If you're not familiar with Ghost, I think you should change that. They also covered Jesus, No, He Knows Me by Genesis. Thank you for the recommendation, Goldfoot. Appreciate that. Look at my face. I am not afraid. Yeah, we're going to get to that. Yeah, we got her. She's featured on the show this afternoon.
Oh,
Special
yes.
guest. Yes.
Yes. What a fucking moron.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep. See, that's like the online person in real life. That's like an online troll in real life who's like just going someplace, going into a chat room to like do a troll and no one cares. That's like the physical manifestation of an online troll. What a metaphor. Oh, George, thanks for the $5. Pleasant greetings to all my fellow scum. Thanks, Keaton, for your kind words and encouragement. And so we begin. Viva DJ Dipshit Romeo. Chuck went from an M Yisrael high to let's get rid of this guy. Good job, oh George. I like that. John M in Minnesota. Repeat from last night. Book recommendation for Russell. Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. Laurel Canyon. Cover ops in the dark heart of the hippie dream. Covert
book recommendation for or from? Because you must be referencing that I'm reading that right now. I've mentioned it on both shows now.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So that's funny because yes, that is.
I mean, are you recommending it for, or did you mean to say from? Because really, I've said it on like this show and on Jimmy's show.
That would be a coincidence if you're recommending it for him, or maybe you're just spreading the word. But thank you.
I just started reading it because so many people have told me to look at the intelligence agency's involvement with these rock stars and abstract art movements. So I'm reading that. Probably the most famous books dealing with that is Chaos, which claims to establish a link between the CIA and Charles Manson. I have that at home. I will get to that, but I'm reading this first. Given that I'm like a mile down the road from Laurel Canyon, it's kind of interesting.
This is interesting. Russ, call Pasta after the show. He's in Cali. You're in Cali, Pasta? Is this Pasta or is this someone else over at the Convo Couch? Because Pasta was supposed to be my co-host tomorrow, but he had something come up. I don't want to disclose what it is because it might be private. But yeah.
Is that why? Is that why he's in Cali?
Maybe. That's what I mean. I don't know.
Oh. All right.
But yeah, there you go. You guys can have a nice big party over there. All right, let's keep moving along here. This is a quick one, folks. But, when Mike Johnson sold out the Republican base and even beyond the Republican base, Mike Johnson really sold out the majority of the Republican caucus in the House by partnering with Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats to pass essentially 3 separate World War III bills plus the TikTok ban. They passed funding for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, and then the cherry on top TikTok ban. So just a really dystopian weekend, courtesy of the Speaker of the House, who is now being targeted by a potential motion to vacate by Marjorie Taylor Greene and the like. And we wondered last time on the show, we really didn't know which way this was going to go. We're like, well, if they make a motion to vacate, will the Democrats have Mike Johnson's back? Because conventional wisdom says, no, they wouldn't. It's an election year. If the Republicans are in chaos, you want to keep them in chaos. That only benefits your party. Then again, we saw such bipartisan kumbaya nature at work over the weekend. Right? Just a beautiful energy on the House floor. Nancy Pelosi, I want to thank Mike Johnson. I love Mike Johnson. And thank you, Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries, for getting this done. It could be that the war drive transcends all of that partisanship, and maybe they will back him. So we were kind of divided. We were like, this could go either way. Well, Khanna gave us some insight into how it's going to go. He's asked point blank on one of the Sunday shows here, what are you going to do if the Republican hardliners come for Mike Johnson? And here's his answer.
Khanna, does Speaker Johnson deserve credit for how this played out?
He does. Look, we came into Congress together, and he always cared about civility. He actually led the civility pledge.
Right. Yeah.
And we had one issue, which was give individual votes. Don't lump things together. And I give him credit for doing this. I would actually vote to table any motion to vacate him You know, Chairman McCall quoted Churchill. One of the things Churchill said is that America always exhausted every wrong option until doing the right thing. Yeah. And this shows that American democracy still is very strong.
Okay, you just said something significant. You said you would oppose the motion
that's one of those
in other
cliche
words,
quotes they like to trot out.
Yeah.
You know, there are certain just absolutely cliche anecdotes that all the politicians and all the pundits love. They all love that one. They all love that one. They all love to talk about Tip O'Neill having a drink with Reagan at the end of the day. That's one of their favorite touchstones.
He is such a sleazebag, though. I mean, he really is. Like, if anything, this demonstrates that American democracy doesn't work. Like, I can't think of a better example of how to prove that American democracy is broken than to point to the fact that for the first time in 20 years, Democrats and Republicans are hugging and kissing on the House floor because they passed funding bills for 3 wars that most Americans don't want. Like, that's an indictment of the
flags
system.
of a foreign nation.
Yeah, exactly.
As they did it.
And on top, waving the flags of a foreign nation. This is democracy working? Finally, I mean, you have these two parties have really been at each other's throats since Obama. That's when there was really that post 9/11 bipartisan consensus really split. You haven't had this kind of nice energy in government in almost 20 years. And they came together to pass funding for 3 wars that no one wants. This is an example of democracy working. It's the exact opposite. The exact opposite.
Well, for them, it is very much an example of democracy working because they don't actually believe in democracy. They believe in oligarchy.
Right.
And they are servants of the oligarchs in good standing, and they want to keep it that way. Part of that exuberance that we saw in Nancy Pelosi's crazy vote for this or Ukrainians are going to get raped speech on the floor.
Yeah.
Part of that exuberance is driven by the realization of fact-based or not, hey, we establishment types can beat the MAGA insurgents.
Exactly.
We can actually outvote them. We can actually crush them. You know what? They can't actually thwart the will of our masters. That's the exuberance.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Is by doing this, they prove to themselves and they prove to their colleagues on the other side that as long as we have each other's backs at the end of the day, even a force the vote type effort can't really topple us. It can injure us. It can slow us down, but it can't stop us because at the end of the day, the uniparty still has the overwhelming majority of seats in the House fall under this red-blue duopoly. We are under the supervision of the permanent state. And if we just come together and trust each other in a moment of crisis, we can jump over any insurgent movement on the left or the right. And they are very happy about that. Now, what's very sleazy about this kind of talk coming from Khanna is he poses as one of these insurgents, right? He likes to talk to the progressive movement like, hey, I'm here to shake things up. I'm here to bring the ruckus, right? And here he is saying the exact opposite. And he
that's what he's there
sneaks in.
for.
Go ahead.
Politicians like him are there for the Elizabeth Warren types to convince themselves that they're leftists.
Right.
You see, I'm not for Biden. I wanted Elizabeth Warren, but hey, the system is messy. And there's another one. The arc of the universe bends towards justice. They fucking love to trot that one out too. There are just all of these cliched platitudes that if you have the fortitude that I do not to watch these shows on the regular, you're going to hear those same cliches over and over and over again. And if you make a habit of watching it, it'll just turn you into a political zombie. You're just going to be a zombie. The incremental change.
Yeah, exactly. But the most important part of this is yet to come, and the interviewer caught what Khanna said and asked him to confirm, and he does.
Option until doing the right thing. Yeah. And this shows that American democracy still is very strong.
Okay, you just said something significant. You said you would oppose the motion to vacate. In other words, you will protect Speaker Johnson's job if Marjorie Taylor Greene and the others go through with their threat to try to remove him.
I would through the end of the term. I expect Speaker Jeffries will be there in 2025. But look, and I'm a progressive Democrat, and I think you would have a few progressive Democrats doing that. And I disagree.
mean, he is though. He is. He is. He's a progressive Democrat.
You know,
that
fucking scumbag douchebag.
That doesn't mean what he thinks it means, or that doesn't mean what he wants you to think it means.
Yeah.
Speaker Johnson on many issues. 2025. But look, and I'm a progressive Democrat, and I think you would have a few progressive Democrats doing that. And I disagree with Speaker Johnson on many issues, and have been very critical of him. But he did the right thing here, and he deserves to keep his job till the end of this term.
I mean, the brazenness to just admit on a mainstream Sunday morning TV show that, yeah, I call myself a progressive. I'm willing to defend the job of my ideological opposite. I mean, the Christian right that Johnson represents is basically the ideological opposite of like the Silicon Valley progressive liberal that Khanna is, right? Yet I'm willing to protect him from a motion to vacate because he gave us the wars that we wanted. He's just saying it out in the open. Yeah, I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he gave us the wars we wanted, so we're going to have his back when it counts. That's what he just said. So the answer is apparently, I mean, look, if Khanna is saying that, you know Nancy Pelosi is saying that. You know Hakeem Jeffries is saying that. Like,
of course.
If he's out there on the leftward flank of the party, if you will, willing to say that, you know there are a couple hundred more centrist-aligned Democrats who are going to do that as well, which means it looks like Johnson's job is safe for the next, whatever it is, 8 months, courtesy of the Democrats, not the Republicans, of the Democrats. So now, any of this right-wing legislation that gets floated in the House, which probably won't pass since the Democrats have the House. Or no, I'm sorry. They don't have the House. What am I saying? I'm acting like they have the House because they do, because he's acting as their speaker. See how that works? They psychologically fucked me up for a second there. I'm thinking now the Democrats have the majority because he's representing them. So now any right-wing legislation that comes out of the House, courtesy of Mike Johnson,
you're like a Meet the Press victim now.
I'm like a Meet the Press victim. Exactly. I got brainwashed there. My mind got fucking burnt. Right? I said the Democrats have the House because that's the way I'm thinking now, because he's representing them. Mike Johnson is doing the Democrats' bidding in the House.
You're going to get your mind right. And I mean right.
They are able to use Mike Johnson now as they want. They can embrace him when they need to. They can distance himself when they feel they need to. Mike, the glory hole of the House, Johnson. That's what he is. You know, you stick yourself in him when you need him, and then you zip up and walk away when you don't want him. And then you can go back anytime you want.
And that is how he is going to be known on this show forever going forward from here.
The glory hole of the House. Yes.
Mike, the glory hole of the House Johnson.
No, well, he's made himself that because now the Democrats can use him when they want and they can trash him when they want. It's the best of both worlds. They'd rather have him than their own speaker because their own speaker is going to take a lot of incoming. Right, from the opposing party. Now they have a Republican who they trust at the end of the day will side with them on the most important issues of the day, which is blowing other countries up. Right. And they get to trash him for all of the cultural shit that they don't like.
Right. And he didn't even bring up immigration for a vote. The thing that his party most wanted to use as leverage, he didn't even do that. Now, the most bizarre part of this spectacle, although not so bizarre for anyone who has sat through the rehabilitation of George Bush, Liz Cheney, and to some extent even Dick Cheney, even the Dark Lord himself, has been somewhat rehabilitated by the media. You already had the headline. I'm not sure which of the goons it was, WAPO or the New York Times, that headlined Mike Johnson becomes an unlikely Churchill. They're going to rehabilitate Mike Johnson. All your lib relatives in about 5 seconds are going to start singing the praises of Mike Johnson. It's going to become, I don't agree with everything that he says, but I don't have to. That's how the system works, and he's reasonable. You can work with him. Just like they'll say that about George Bush now. They'll say he was a reasonable Republican that you could have honest disagreements with. Mike fucking Johnson, this guy in some kind of covenant marriage. This guy is not a bridge too far for them. But you're talking about people for whom genocide is not a bridge too far. Because if you bring up Joe Biden and genocide, even if they don't deny the genocide, which increasingly they don't, but Trump, they'll fall back on but Trump. So genocide is not a red line for you. You don't have one. You literally do not have one.
It's the opposite of not being a red line. They like Mike Johnson because he gave them the war money. Mike Johnson didn't cut a deal with Mike Johnson for paid family leave. They didn't cut a deal with Mike Johnson for universal pre-K. They cut a deal with Mike Johnson to get more Ukrainians killed and more Gazans killed, and then maybe all of us killed if the China thing blows up. Like, that's what they partnered with him on. That's why they love Mike Johnson. That's why they can say, Mike Johnson's a reasonable guy I admire. That's why Ro Khanna is out there praising him. Not because he gave them a social program that would actually help people, because he gave them more.
Yeah, well, their voters don't think about it that way. They think the way they're told to think about it, that bipartisanship is a good unto itself. It doesn't matter what they're agreeing on. This is a result of decades of the media covering politics as horse race and horse trading and deal making, and in the end, the religious precept, there always has to be some justification. The arc of the universe bends towards justice. That's very important, right? Yes, it's the process of democracy is messy, and when you see how the sausage is made, it's disgusting, but the arc of the universe bends towards justice, and you have to be grown-ups, and the adults are back in the room, and they don't look at what they are agreeing on. Didn't George Carlin do a whole bit on that about how, the things that they agree on are the worst
to the
things?
effect of when Democrats and Republicans start working together, get ready. You're about to get fucked. Yeah.
Exactly. But they have been brainwashed and trained and programmed to see bipartisanship as evidence of the glories of our democratic system at work, no matter what they're agreeing on. That's incidental.
Exactly. Lori and Brightbill, thanks for the $9.99. Appreciate that very much. Brent Yoendo, movie recommendation for the boys. Check out Shrek. Much love from Washington. Thank you. I've seen that. It's a nice movie. It's a very wholesome super chat. That's probably the most wholesome super chat we've ever gotten. Right? I mean, it doesn't get
maybe
than that, right? Movie recommendation. Check out Shrek. Much love. Much love to you, Brent.
Well, there was the lady who said, "Wear your rubbers," and we thought she meant condoms, but it was raining that day. She was actually.
That's right. That's right. We just have dirty minds, so we took it the wrong way.
We assumed.
We assumed. The reptilians burn the taxpayers again. Indeed. Yes. Doesn't Mike Johnson look like Phil Hartman? Maybe
a little
bit. I don't know. I have to take another look at Phil Hartman to get back to you. But off the top of my head, maybe a little. Yeah. The judge, thanks for the $2. How do we know Jose isn't going to pull a Mike Johnson when he gets elected? We don't. You never do. No. I mean, Jose is a trustworthy guy, it seems. The fact that he's running outside the two-party system gives me confidence, but no, you never know. I have his number, so if he does, I could at least give him a call.
We know where he lives too.
We do. We can't give.
We've made threats,
yeah,
and
exactly,
we sometimes just to keep him on his toes, we call and hang up at all hours of the night, just so he knows that we're watching.
Yeah. He knows where we live too, though, because he had to check our voter registration to sign up. So now we can't.
True.
We don't have that over him anymore. It's an MAD kind of thing now, right? Scorpionic Sag. So it seems like the post-duopoly crew and the Jimmy Dore crew got the ideal government narrowed down to some combination of Scandinavian social democracy and communism. Sorry, what happened? I don't know what it ran off the screen. Like China, Cuba, Vietnam. Thank you, Scorpionic Sag. That's a theoretical
I hate
debate.
Communism.
Yeah.
Communism killed my uncle.
MSM had their mouths full of pecker today, and it's glorious to listen to. Well, that's what I said. Glory hole of the house, right?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to keep on moving. All right, folks. This is kind of a nightmarish story. Like, what would hell look like if the Bible were written in times with like modern tech, right? Hell would look something like this. It wouldn't be that different from this. This is a very modern vision of hell. Landlords have a secret weapon. Rents are soaring is a popular software to blame. So this is AI manipulating and artificially inflating the price of housing. Landlords have a lot of built-in leverage over renters. Moving is a pain, so tenants are more likely to accept rent hikes. Developing new apartments is expensive and time-consuming, which makes it tough for competitors to enter the market. Even during shaky periods for the economy, rents tend to hold steady or even climb. People still need to live somewhere. Over the past few years, the playing field tilted further in favor of landlords. Rents soared thanks to a shortage of apartment units, remote workers' desire for more space, and a daunting for-sale market that kept many renters stuck in place. Big-time apartment owners, it turns out, also had a secret weapon. A Texas company called RealPage, which sells software to property managers to help them set rents and juice their profits. Its algorithm tells landlords exactly how much rent they should charge for units in their buildings based on a potent mix of both public and non-public data that property owners supply to the company. RealPage openly brags about its ability to help clients, quote, outpace the market in good times and bad. Outpace the market, which means artificially inflate the market if enough landlords sign up. And you actually don't need that many landlords to sign up nowadays because corporations are buying up the houses. So many housing units in so many cities are owned by a small handful of people. In a new lawsuit against the company, Chris Mays, Arizona's AG, offered a translation. Outpace is code for charging higher prices than what would be charged in a market untainted by collusion, the complaint reads. This is price fixing, and it is illegal. The lawsuit is one of dozens that accuse RealPage of operating a vast conspiracy to overcharge renters via its prized algorithm. Critics say the cooperation between RealPage and apartment managers has emboldened landlords to raise prices, even if it means more units are left empty when the tenants are forced to leave. Without RealPage, the plaintiffs argue, landlords would be hesitant to jack up rents. Instead, they'd focus on keeping their buildings full. The cases offer a revealing glimpse at how corporate apartment owners rely on technology to wring every last dollar out of tenants who often have little idea how their rents are calculated or why a double-digit annual percentage increase is justified. But a win for the plaintiffs is far from guaranteed. Without hard evidence of shaky dealings in a smoke-filled back room, they'll likely have to prove that use of the algorithm and the cooperation it facilitated among apartment-owning competitors unfairly pushed up prices and ultimately did more harm than good. If the plaintiffs succeed, though, the ripple effects could extend well beyond rental housing. Algorithmic or dynamic pricing is used currently in a wide variety of industries, including hospitality, retail, transportation, and entertainment. These cases could provide a roadmap for class action lawyers to target those sectors too. In short, the lawsuits that started with apartment rents could one day change how we pay for everything. RealPage may not be a household name, but if you live in a major U.S. city, you've probably walked past or lived in an apartment that had its rent price set by the software. Its clients, as of 2020, the last year data was publicly available, included the 10 largest multifamily property management companies in the U.S. Its suite of services is used to manage more than 24 million units worldwide, according to the company's website. And as we'll read on in a few minutes, there are cities that have half of the units with their price set by this software. But to flesh this out a little bit more, More Perfect Union put out a pretty good video on this. And so we're going to take a look at this. This is a few minutes.
What is RealPage?
So RealPage is a company that operates software that allows landlords to input their data into an algorithm, and then RealPage sets the prices for all of those landlords. This is actually against the law.
Attorney General Mays isn't the only one alleging this.
Our allegations are that RealPage, in combination with 14 of the largest landlords here in the District of Columbia, are effectively colluding with one another to set rents.
Across America, rent is up 20% since 2020. The Attorney Generals of Arizona and DC are suing RealPage and a host of big landlords, alleging that an algorithmic housing cartel is helping drive up prices.
In the pre-RealPage days, landlords would compete with one another.
They played a guessing game with rent prices. Push it too high and people move, leaving landlords hunting for new tenants. It was a delicate balance, a market. And I'm not sure if it was fair, but it wasn't rigged. An algorithm helped change all of that.
We're talking about an algorithm that aggregates otherwise confidential information that the landlords have that ordinarily they would not share with their competitors.
Data like rent prices, lease expiry dates, any deals they offer to tenants.
That allows then the algorithm to spit out a pricing recommendation, all designed to keep the overall market at its highest peak.
They are not charging what the market can bear. They are controlling the market. It's leading to the exacerbation of our affordability crisis, our housing crisis here in Arizona.
If you could imagine a smoke-filled room where the landlords, the largest landlords in the District of Columbia, came together to decide what they were going to charge in rent, to share their confidential information, everybody would be able to see that that's an anti-competitive practice.
Until recently, using shared pricing algorithms like this flew under the radar. If your algorithm set prices, you'd just say, it's not cheating, it's a suggestion. Not anymore. Lena Khan and the FTC have said, just a suggestion? That's price fixing, no excuses. And RealPage, according to the lawsuits, they weren't even pretending the prices were suggestions.
RealPage has a system set up where the landlords who have adopted the system agree to a set of rules.
One of the rules is that RealPage gets to set rent prices. If landlords want to charge less than the digital oracle suggests, they have to justify their decision.
The justification needs to be reviewed by RealPage. RealPage can push back against the justification.
And if you push back too much, RealPage can kick the landlord out of the scheme, with one insider telling investigators, sometimes we were happy to see customers go.
They also had a policing agent that would go out and make sure that the landlords and their leasing agents were staying in line and not deviating from the price that was being set.
This scheme.
See, that's interesting. By the way, I had my mic settings all fucked up when we started the show. I apologize. I just fixed it. I just realized that. But anyway, sorry about that, folks. I probably sound a little better now. Anyway.
So someone said something and I didn't say anything because you always get people who say that.
Yeah, but you know what? No, the reason because when we talked on the StreamYard yesterday, I couldn't talk to Russ on the phone yesterday because I left my phone charger in my wife's car and my phone was about to die. So we had to talk on StreamYard, and I turned my echo cancellation and my background noise settings on because we were talking with no mics and no headphones, and I forgot to set them back the right way. So I apologize about that. My fault. All right, we're going to have to redo the first hour of the show. Let's go from the beginning. All right,
let's go back.
Yeah, let's go back.
I feel like we could nail it this time.
Yeah, right, exactly. That was a little rusty anyway.
That was
I think we'll have to just redo the first hour. Bear with us. No, but it's interesting that that little piece suggests that this is like the Uberification or the YouTubeification of real estate, because now these property owners are subject to the rules and guidelines, you will, of the software. So now, I mean, you can own a building and you get access to the perks that come with this software that basically rigs the market in your favor. But if you don't cooperate, what do? They send you strike one. You know what I mean? You're off. So they have them by the balls too. So this is how you can control the housing market from a laptop. This is what I mean. This is the ethos of tech. The ethos of big tech is we don't like to work. We like to own things and control people while doing as little work as possible.
They're hacking property ownership.
Exactly. All right, we'll let this keep going.
If true, has had a real tangible impact on Americans.
RealPage advertises that it's going to increase revenues 2% to 7% for the participants in the cartel.
What RealPage is telling these landlords and is doing with these landlords is, don't worry about occupancy rates anymore. It doesn't matter really how many people move out of your building, you're still going to grow your revenue over time.
How? Through these coordinated price increases.
In Phoenix alone, we've seen rent increase 76% since 2016. It is almost certain that people were evicted as a result of these price increases, and that some people were made homeless by them.
To their prospective customers, the landlords, RealPage is pretty open about all of this. You can go to their website, type in a zip code, and view a sample of what buildings are using the software, along with any corresponding price changes. We'll see, this building right here, rent is actually down about 4%. If we just zoom out a little bit, a few blocks over, this rent is actually up 4%. They used to have videos where landlords talked about how RealPage's algorithm pushed them to raise rent, but the company deleted it after the Washington Post ran a story. On investor calls, they're flat out saying the algorithm is going to recommend higher lease rates for every property. But the company goes to great lengths to train landlords to hide this scheme from renters. Landlords were coached across a variety of scenarios and told not to mention RealPage or pricing algorithms to tenants. Instead, they were supposed to say stuff like units were being priced individually.
So there you have it. Price fixing, manipulation, all without a pen and paper, just done via an algorithm and a software. That is the business model. That's their pitch to these landlords. And the influence in certain places is going to be less than others. We mentioned before we went on, New York is a quite regulated housing market compared to some other cities. But if you look at this is the final slide, and then we'll talk about this a little bit. RealPage wields the greatest power in markets with a high concentration of corporate-owned apartments. So look at this. About 70% of apartment units in the Phoenix metropolitan area, which is massive. Phoenix is, I think, the 5th largest metropolitan area in the United States. It was back when I was giving tours. Maybe it's changed now, but it used to be New York, L.A., Houston, and then I think New York, L.A., Chicago, Houston, Phoenix. Those are, I think, the top 5. So you're talking about the top 5 metropolitan areas in the country. Phoenix, massive city, 70% of apartments are owned by or managed by companies that use this revenue management, quote-unquote, software, the company's term for the price recommendation software that is now under scrutiny, according to estimates by Arizona's Attorney General. In Tucson, about half of listed apartments fall under that umbrella. The Washington, D.C. AG, not Merrick Garland, but of the city, who has also sued RealPage, said that more than 30% of multifamily units in the district and 60% of units in buildings with 50 or more units were priced using RealPage's software. So you see, it can have a huge influence on the housing market to the point where it becomes a fake market. It's all manipulated by this AI software. And these landlords buy in, and they know once they buy in that they're going to get top dollar and that no one's going to slide under them because they're all on the same algorithm. How is that legal? It's legal when you're living in a modern day hell. I mean, this is something they would have in hell. Like, if there are apartments in hell, this is how they'd be priced.
Well, or
we'll find out when we get there. Obviously, we will find out.
We're on a fast track to that destination, according to Georgia's Congressman Rick Allen.
Yeah.
By denying the rights of the people of Israel to the land.
Plus the Mike Johnson joke, you can't say Mike Johnson. You can't call Mike Johnson the glory hole of the house. God's not going to forgive us for that.
Do you want dissidents to be cursed by God of the Bible? No, I don't want that.
No. We don't want that. Don't drag us into Congress. No, we're sorry. What do you need from us? We certainly don't want that.
No, this is really, it's like a Black Mirror episode, as so much of society is today. We're facing one of those moments in history, very much like the Gilded Age, where the people have been almost entirely disempowered, and corporate entities and the wealthy are going as far as they'll go. They will go as far as they can go. What ended that were workers coming out and being willing to literally get the shit beat out of them on strikes by strike breakers, who very often were ex-cops or moonlighting cops who would get hired by the corporations. And, it took decades of these kinds of pitched battles and fights and boycotts and strikes to really get the post-New Deal prosperity of the middle class. That was all born of decades of struggle and fighting. These companies want to make us all slaves. They always did. This is just a new tech spin on that. It reminds me, actually, the second book was so bad nobody ever references the first one. But Ready Player One actually had a pretty interesting, the Spielberg film really doesn't get into it, but it had a pretty interesting vision of a future where yes, like this outwardly benign tech dystopia where if you have debt, they will make you go work in like an office cubicle with an ankle shackle on.
Right.
Like, would they not do that if they can? Would they not do that? You look at something like that and it's funny to us, but is that really out of the question? They will go as far as they can go, and it's very much the frog in the pot of boiling water. It happens 1 inch at a time, one algorithm at a time. First it started with the delivery apps, making it much harder for these restaurants to make money, but it's convenient for you, right? And at the same time, you had the rise of Amazon, which made it almost impossible to have an independent business. And now everybody's completely dependent on Amazon and shopping almost exclusively in some cases through Amazon. And it just creeps and it creeps and it creeps up until before you know it, tech has a kind of control over the entire economy and over the entire population that the old railroad barons could only have dreamt of.
Exactly. And this part, I just want to zero in on 1 second here. I just want to bring this graph up. This is the rent increases over time. And as the video and the article mentions, landlords know going into this that they're not going to maximize the occupancy of their buildings. They are going to have vacant units as a result of this. But that's factored into the revenue maximization scheme. This is why you have to overthrow these people, because the market imperative is not to maximize sales, not to maximize volume of sales. In this case, not to maximize occupancy. It's to maximize profit. So when you go to a baseball game and the beers are $13, you think to yourself, well, wouldn't they sell way more beers if the beers were $7 as opposed to $13? Well, yeah, they'd sell a lot more beers that way, but they've worked it out where they could sell fewer beers at a much higher price
and make more money.
And make more money off of the fewer beers that they sell. Now, that's fair enough when the consumer product is beers at a baseball game. Beers are expensive at the game. If you can only afford one and not two, I mean, it's unfortunate if you like beer, but it's not the end of the world. When the product is housing, that is the end of the world, because the people who get locked out of that end up on the street, as that woman said in the video, right? That's why, you can't apply the same dynamics to one sector of life that you would to every other one, because there are certain sectors that are too big and too vital and too important for market forces to dominate that space.
That's it. Like air travel. You can argue
like
air travel.
Exactly.
That's why you have so many nations that have a national airline
that
is actually subsidized and controlled by the public. Because I don't have to tell you, look at what's happening now. But this is really this is something that in New York, I suppose in other places, but New York has a notoriously brutal commercial real estate market. This is something you've long seen in the commercial real estate market, and it's a big contributing factor to destroying the culture of New York City. You used to have a place I used to love to go to, Amato Opera. It was actually an amateur opera company. They had their own space. It was right down the street from CBGB's, the old punk club. And it got closed by the landlord. And you would think, oh, wow, they must have gotten somebody in there who would pay a lot more. That place sat empty for 7 years because they are willing, very much like this, they're willing to leave it empty until they get someone they can hit over the head.
Exactly.
Because once they get the Chase Bank in there and they're going to pay quadruple, it's worth leaving it empty for 7 years.
Right. Pays for all that vacant time.
And not only does it pay for all of that vacant time, but they take a tax write-off during the years that it's vacant. So this is kind of bringing that. That's never really applied to the housing market in New York because you have the rent stabilization. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But I am wondering, I want to look into this. I want to go onto the website and put in New York zip codes and see if it's active in New York. We talked about this before we got online. Most of New York's housing is heavily regulated, but above a certain amount, you go into the luxury category, which is a ridiculous amount by New York standards. It's something like, I forget what it is, like 5,000, like above 5,000, it's considered luxury. I'm curious to see if this is an operation on that end of the market, because New York lost more population per capita than anywhere in the country, but the rents month after month after month after month hit record highs. I have not been able to figure out why that is. Maybe this is a factor.
Yeah, certainly could be. Certainly could be. Folks, if you like what we do here, you could support what we do by going to patreon.com/do-dissidents. Perks of joining include your name up in lights here on the show credits. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As every Sunday. And we switched it up this past Sunday because Russell was flying out to L.A. at the time we usually do a show. So we did a patron-exclusive stream on Sunday. That was an epic. That was 3 hours and 20 minutes, that patron stream, with Tusker. Thanks to Tusker for being a great guest co-host. And Russell, as I understand, you caught the front end of that stream from the airport bar.
I caught the front end, and I watched some of the end after it had already aired. Yeah, Tusker's a natural on the mic. That's why I keep trying to give her a show.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that was a great stream. That was a really fun stream.
We just can't get her off the farm with her chickens and her horses. She just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, but it was great. And we had the calls were all great. We had a lot of people call in, and we were on for over 3 hours. That was a real fun time. So thank you. For those who signed up, you can go to patreon.com/do-dissidents. You can also go to do-dissidents.substack.com, become a paid member there. Or you can become a paid locals member if you're watching on Rumble right now. That red join button underneath the video screen takes you to our locals page where you can become a member of the show. Like I said, call-in access every Sunday night. You also get 2 full-length supporter streams per month, and you'll get live stream access to our live show in New York City. We have single-digit ticket availability for the 7 p.m. Show, and then we have 10 even left for the
we only have one at 7 now?
No, we have single-digit availability. We have 4 because one person had to
we have 4,
give their seats up because they had an emergency, and of course we honored that. That's cool. But so we have 4 left for the 7 p.m. show and 10 left for the 2 p.m. show. So time is running out for real now to get your seats. If you want to come see us in New York City on June 9th, you can go to do-dissidents.com/day show for the day show, do-dissidents.com/night show for the night show. That gets you to the ticket pages. But like I said, if you're far out of town and you can't make the live show, if you sign up as a member, you really do wonders to help support the project. And as a special perk, you get live stream access to those shows. So you can be in the audience remotely as it all goes down. And we will be reading Rumble Rants that night from the chat from people who are watching. So it'll be a true interactive podcast experience. So thank you all very much for your supports. Oh, George, thanks for the $5. Wondered if my neighbor Osama knows Osama bin Laden, the footballer. He said, of course. I said, I just heard of him. He looked at me surprised. I said, oh no, Osama bin Laden. Oh man, you guys, it's not your fault, but he loved it. He loved it. That's the end of it. Sorry, we run into a character limit here on our display banners. Russell, oops, that was you. Oh, so did you hear about that book from Russell and think you heard about it from someone else, and then you recommended it back to Russell? That must have been what happened.
That makes sense, because I was like, that is too random, because I talked about it twice this week.
You must have heard about it from Russ and forgot he was who you heard it from, and then you recommended it back to him. Yeah.
Happens to me all the time. So I was kidding about Tusker and our chickens and horses. She has agreed to put together like some kind of monthly show, which we would co-host with her or something, but we've been so busy. But yes, a show that is primarily hers, but not as frequently as this will probably happen.
Yes, we hope so. Saluti from Canada, A. Thank you, Giovanni Polidori. I love your name. That's a good name. All right, what do we got here? We got Robot Leg. Thanks for the $5. Two observations from Jose video. One, Keaton is taller than I thought. Two, Russ is shorter than I thought. Well, maybe neither are true. Maybe you just had expectations that we'd be the same. And so I guess technically that could mean both of those observations.
Maybe the street we were standing on had a deep rake.
Could be too. It was on a hill. It was on a hill.
Maybe it was just pitched. Maybe I'm taller than Keaton.
Yeah. No, I'm not like especially tall.
Maybe we are the MC Escher drawing of podcast hosts.
Right. Exactly. I'm above average height, but I'm not like especially tall. I'm 6'1". So, I'm at the high end of the normal range. I'm not like 6'5", 6'6", or anything like that.
He's tall for this space because most of us have been physically stunted by trauma and depression.
Yeah, and sitting down too much.
Yeah.
Devanes, thanks for the $2. Guess I'm the one you are calling a troll. That is fine. When derivatives blow up the economy and teachers' pension disappear overnight, just remember I told you. We weren't calling you a troll.
Did we call someone a troll?
I said something about an online troll, but no, wasn't talking about you. But thank you for that.
Do you know how many fucking people troll us?
Yeah, we get a lot of trolls. Oh, by the way, speaking of trolling, not that anyone was trolling, but YouTube apparently turned the comments off of our Glenn Greenwald, Megyn Kelly video. Comments are disabled. We didn't do it. I don't know. Maybe too many people were saying too many things they didn't want them to say, so they just turned the whole comment section off, which is strange because we certainly didn't.
Really?
Do it. Yeah.
That's never happened before, right?
No.
Has that
never
ever happened?
No, never did. But they must have done it. Because we didn't do it.
Wow.
Doc Durkin, thanks for the $5. Keaton and Russell, progressive friars, pseudo-rabbis, or modern super intellectuals of counterculture converting wayward souls of America. There you go. That's a good tagline for the show.
You know what? That should be the intro for the live show.
Yeah, there you go. We can record that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scorpionic Sag, have y'all watched Danny Haifang's channel? If so, what do you think of his work? I don't get a chance to watch much stuff. Like, I watch stuff when something comes to my attention and I feel I have to. But no, I've interviewed, actually, Danny co-hosted an episode with me once, and then we interviewed him on the Jimmy Dore show. I like him very much. Yeah, he's a cool dude and very smart. Mike Johnson, I think it's his evil covenant marriage twin, Mike Hunt. That's good. That's good. I like that one. That's funny. That's a good one. Nice how you can sneak that in. Perfect. Beautiful. All right. Mike Hunt, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. That was the prank call, right? From that was what Ralph Cifaretto called Paulie Walnuts' his mother in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Detective Mike Hunt from Beaver Falls. He can't bring up the borders because nothing will remain for Trump to run on. Some people are saying that Trump forced this deal through to keep the border issue open for the election. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
don't buy it.
I don't buy it. I don't. I mean, it's a theory, but I don't buy it.
Well, that could be why he didn't push immigration, but it's not why Trump supported sending funds to Ukraine.
Right, because you could just say no deal. No deal means the border doesn't get done either. Right? And that's what Trump was saying this whole time. No deal for Ukraine, no border. And then, he signaled that he signaled something was up. You knew something was up when he changed his tone from I'll have the war over within 24 hours of taking office to, well, we'll restructure the money as a loan. Like, that was like, what? That was like, wait a minute. What's going on here? Something's off. Yeah,
it's very interesting. I'm doing two Elon stories tomorrow on Jimmy, and Elon and Trump are very, very similar. They're both people that you really want to be something that they're really not.
Exactly.
And every now and then they kind of stumble into doing the right thing. And we live in a time where that is so rare on all fronts that we probably overinvest in it and celebrate it more than we should, because for every stand on free speech Elon takes, there are going to be thousands of pro-Palestine people who get shadow banned. And for every time Trump says in an interview, you gotta finish the job in Israel. When the rubber hits the road, he's going to give them whatever they want in the end. We're just our only heroes, quote unquote, are fucking frauds. In the end, these guys are frauds. They're con artists. They're flim-flam men. My two Elon pieces are going to be, on the one hand, he's fighting with Australia, which good. I mean, I'm glad somebody's doing it. And on the other hand, his fucking, Cybertruck is like something that was drawn on a piece of construction paper by a 7-year-old and handed to a garage full of monkeys to build.
Right. Yeah. No, that is well put. They both are people who are chaotic enough to the point where I think people project onto them what they want to see.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Alrighty. We will continue on here, folks. All right. These are a couple of headlines that I think go together, and they're both sickening. So the first, as we are tone policing protests on college campuses again, because that's a thing again. But
Yes.
as we started doing that,
I really thought we were done with that. I really did.
Yeah, I really did. And that's our next segment. That's the big one for the afternoon. But this is just sort of the warm up, because as we're doing that, as we are accusing students of harassing people who they're not harassing and threatening people who they're not threatening, according to the cops, by the way, not according to,
Right.
Like propagandist podcasters like us. According to the NYPD, they're not threatening people. But
They
anyway, we're supposed to pretend that they are.
They have not gotten one report of a
Right.
Jewish student being attacked in New York. Not one.
Right, right. But we are supposed to be very afraid of that as this happens. Israeli strikes on southern Gaza city of Rafah kill 22, mostly children, as U.S. advances aid package. But please, why don't we manage the manners of the Columbia students and the Yale students? That's really important. It's really important that they don't raise their voices too much, or that their signs aren't too provocative.
He didn't hurt me with his hands, but
Right.
he hurt me with his words.
Yeah, exactly. Really important stuff there. Israeli strikes on the southern Gaza city, of Rafah overnight, killed 22 people, including 18 children, health officials said Sunday, as the United States was on track to approve billions of dollars of additional military aid to Israel, its close ally. Israel has carried out near daily air raids on Rafah. So there's been no ground invasion yet, but there have been near daily air raids, where more than half of Gaza's population of 2.3 million has sought refuge from fighting elsewhere. It has also vowed to expand its ground offensive against the Hamas militant group to the city on the border with Egypt, despite calls for restraints, including from the U.S. In the coming days, we will increase the political and military pressure on Hamas because this is the only way to bring back our hostages and achieve victory. We will land more and painful blows on Hamas soon, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement. He did not give details. The first Israeli strike in Rafah killed a man, his wife, and their 3-year-old child, according to nearby Kuwaiti hospital, which received the bodies. The woman was pregnant and the doctors saved the baby, the hospital said. The second strike killed 17 children and 2 women from an extended family. These children were sleeping. What did they do? What was their fault? Asked one relative, Karim. Mohammed al-Bahiri said that his daughter, Rasha, and her 6 children, the youngest 18 months old, were among those killed. A woman and 3 children were still under the rubble. The Israel-Hamas war has killed more than 34,000 Palestinians, according to local health officials, at least 2/3 of them children and women. It has devastated Gaza's 2 largest cities and left a swath of destruction. Around 80% of the territory's population have fled to other parts of the besieged coastal enclave. The $26 billion aid package approved by the U.S. House of Representatives on Saturday, once again, thanks to Mike Johnson and the Democratic Party, includes around $9 billion in humanitarian assistance for Gaza, which experts say is on the brink of famine. So that's $9 billion in aid, $17 billion to bomb them. That's how that works, I guess. Carrying out large Iran strike, according to a report, which, as according to the headline, the U.S. denies. So this is not a confirmed report, but this is printed in the Times of Israel, which is a pretty mainstream outlet over there. Egyptian officials tell a Qatari outlet that the U.S. has accepted Israel's plan for an operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, in return for not carrying out a large strike in Iran in response to Tehran's unprecedented missile and drone attack. A U.S. National Security Council spokesperson says the story isn't true and such a plan has never been discussed. The American administration showed acceptance of the plan previously presented by the occupation government regarding the military operation in Rafah in exchange for not carrying out a large-scale attack against Iran, an unnamed official tells Al-Arali al-Jadid. The Egyptian official tells the outlet that preparations are underway so that Egypt can deal with any possible impact of the planned operation. 4 Hamas battalions are believed to be stationed in Rafah, along with over 1 million civilians sheltering there after fleeing fighting in other parts of the Strip. Rafah is also thought to be where Hamas leaders are hidden, possibly along with Israeli hostages. Prime Minister Netanyahu has several times claimed to have approved plans for a Rafah operation and more recently said that a date has been decided for the launch. So you have airstrikes hitting Rafah. You have a report that says that the United States will basically sell out the people of Rafah to prevent World War III. Now, that is not confirmed. The U.S. says they did not agree to that plan. At this point, all that matters, whether that report is true or not, is does Israel invade and what is the American response? Because if the Americans do not do anything in response to that invasion, then that report may as well have been true. Or not, because we could get both. We could get a ground invasion and we can get World War III. Unless and until the Americans stand up to Netanyahu, then all of this reporting is what? Is it true? Is it not true? Do I trust that we didn't make that deal? No, I don't trust that we did make that deal. I can't report as fact that we made that deal. But when you have an out-of-control regime that is bombing children from the sky and that has no reason to feel like we, the United States, are going to respond negatively to anything they do despite all of our rhetoric, we're just along for the ride now. We're just along for the ride now. And how disgusting is it that given this, look at those 2 articles side by side and think how utterly out of control this has gotten. How completely out of control. I mean, it was out of control from day one, but now you have this really ballooning into World War III, and now you have 1.5 million people trapped in tents that are already being raided, and now there's reporting that says that A, Netanyahu has set a date for a ground invasion, and B, this is the unconfirmed part, just want to say that because we don't want to say anything that's not true. This is unconfirmed that the United States has made a deal with them to allow them to go through with the ground operation if they will keep World War III in check. Look at how out of control that is. And yet we're litigating campus protests now? Really? That's homepage CNN, is that the campus protests have been too mean? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What an utter embarrassment of a society this is. It really is.
Well, that's not an accident. That's what Caitlin Johnston tweeted out. It's no accident that right when this ground invasion of Rafah is about to take place, they're ginning up this nonsense narrative about these protests being anti-Semitic with absolutely no evidence. They came up with one fucking person with a sign that I would argue is not even anti-Semitic. It's anti-Zionist. They had a sign pointing towards Zionist counter-protesters saying, I don't know what the name of it is, but it was the name of Hamas's armed group. Very much like the IRA had their armed group. Right. There's a name for their armed division, as distinct from the political division. And it said their next target, and there was an arrow pointed there. That's not a threat. That says nothing about Jews, right? They're Zionists. It's a political statement. But this, of course, was used, and you have to ask the question, is that a provocateur or a legit protester? Because you have pointed out, and I've pointed out from both of our experience going to things like this, everyone is very cautious not to give the media that kind of ammunition.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean you don't get somebody who might go off the reservation, not get with the program. It could be that. It could also be an agent provocateur. And even if that person is not an agent provocateur, we know that ultimately, if they want to discredit a movement, they will send agent provocateurs into the crowd to give the media those kinds of images to build that narrative around.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, if I knew you were going to go there, I would have pulled this as an exhibit. But there's a tweet from the Shirian Collective. Here, I'll show it on the phone if you could see it, just so you see what I'm referencing, and then I'll read it. But this was a tweet that went out saying, breaking Operation Global Insight, no more words. Join the Syrian Collective's first undercover operation. Become an agent embedded behind enemy lines at this weekend's protests, marking our first global operation that combines the efforts of volunteers and our more seasoned internal team. We're looking for individuals who can maintain cool, calm, and collected demeanors under triggering Jew hate and pressure. Volunteers willing to wear keffiyehs and walk in these demonstrations masked. So so they actually put out a casting call for people to infiltrate.
Wow.
So how do you know they're not the ones who are saying with the more provocative signs?
How do you know they're not going to hold up a sign
so then they
can justify this narrative? The only thing in any of my research that I saw, and it's very revealing that all they could find was stuff like that, claims that they said go back to Poland. Now, I heard things like that when I went to cover the protest on October 8th. It was in a context of the Israelis telling them Palestine doesn't exist and they're protesting for an imaginary country, to which they responded, you're from Poland, you're from Russia. So, okay, you want to say that that's anti-Semitic. What is what they say? That your country doesn't exist, it's imaginary. What is that?
It never existed. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
like the sign that you described, I saw that sign, and I don't think it's smart to bring a sign like that to a protest like that because it's overly provocative and inflammatory.
Exactly.
But it's not a threat. It's a political statement.
Of course.
Which is not harassment by definition. And why I would not support a sign like that because of how easy it is to interpret as something that can taint the movement. I would say you shouldn't do that. But like I said, they're putting out casting calls to join the crowd, masked. What did Russell say last time? A lot of the protesters are masked because they want to hide their faces. Well, it turns out a lot of the infiltrators have even better reason to be masked because they are there pretending to be someone they're not. What better way to do that than to put a mask on?
And they don't want to have to explain why they were photographed in that protest of booking at Passover.
Right. No, I was only an infiltrator. Believe me, it wasn't. Yeah, right. Exactly. So you never know with these things. But even if that's a one-off thing. And as you've said, when you go to these protests, I've been to a few of these. We're two Jews here who have been to quite a number of these. I've never felt unsafe once. I've never seen any anti-Semitic or violent, threatening rhetoric or signature or anything like that. And it's just incredible that, given what's happening now, and like as you mentioned, Russell, Caitlin Johnson said, it's really not incredible. It actually makes perfect sense that this would be the propaganda blitz as Rafah gets hit harder and harder, and as a ground invasion can probably come any day. Our State Department says they haven't been given a date. I doubt that too. I mean, certainly if they were given a date, they wouldn't tell us because they want to be able to act very shocked and appalled when it happens.
Yes.
Right. So they're not going to tell us, yeah, he told us it's going to be May 13th. Right. We want to be able to tell the public that how shocked we were when it happens. Right. So like I said, you never know. But that was a good lead into our next segment, which we're going to start in just a second, but let's go to Puck971. Gents, love listening to your insane ideas, but I do agree with you idiots on this funding bill. Thank you. That's a great compliment. Stop painting all liberals with a broad paintbrush. Oh, so you're a liberal who likes us? You're the only liberal who likes us, I think, probably.
You got a self-described liberal. See, that means so many things to different people. I don't even know what you mean by it.
Yeah, but it is interesting. Because if by liberal you mean like mainstream Democrat, you would be the first fan, to our knowledge, who fits that description. Yeah,
I would like to know more.
Yes, we are intrigued. DC, how the fuck y'all still believe elections are real? Thank you, DC. A long story short, you guys should spread a rumor that Trump owns this real estate software company. They would instantly be investigated. It's a good idea.
Yeah, you're right.
We should accuse Trump of having stock in it, and then they would certainly get to the bottom of that. Axel Strife, member for 10 months. Tusker Do will play on Husker Do.
Yeah.
Funny. Thank you, Axel. Axel, shout out to Brandon.
Yeah, that'll be the name of the show. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's actually not bad. Tusker Do. I like that. All right, let's go to some Rumble rants here. You guys
we're going to do that Hollywood style, man. We're going to steal that and give you no credit.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. You guys should check out and cover the Umar Zamir case in Toronto, Canada. It's wild. Jimmy would love this crooked cop story. Interesting. We'll look into that. We need content. We need content this week. We're churning out shows like crazy. We are a content factory this week. So any leads are appreciated.
We hang on, bring that back up. I was going to take a picture of it.
Oh, I already deleted it, and it's a pain in the ass to bring it up. But don't worry, it'll be on the replay.
We can rewind.
It's at the 1 hour and 42 minute and 30-second mark. So there, you'll know where to see it again.
I mean, for tomorrow, we're pretty ahead of the game because we have my trans duology that we never got to yesterday.
That's right.
I got my 2 Elon pieces. So, yeah, tomorrow we're in pretty good shape.
The Trans Duology Show. That's a good name.
Yes,
that's a good
that's
episode.
What we're subtitling.
Subtitling it. That's going to be the thumbnail that's going to be the title.
For anyone curious, I'm doing something on the Satanic Panic because its originator just died. And I'm pairing that with a segment on how the author of the Cass report can't take public transportation anymore because the very peaceful trans activists are threatening her life.
Hold on. Sorry, I almost screwed that up. Okay, here we go. Doc Durkin, thanks for the $5. Thanks for covering the Real Page story. Seems like modern price fixing, making housing a virtual monopoly. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Yes, that was good. More Perfect Union is, they're a weird organization. I think Faz Shakir works for them. They're a little libby, but they do good stuff very often. So it's good to feature that stuff every once in a while. Devane's capitalism eats itself inevitably. Yes, FDR saved it, but maybe he shouldn't have. Our future is bleak. Any hope people put in politicians is wasted. Just get wasted. Buy, hold, DRS book. Thank you, Devanes. Appreciate that. Luis de la Cruz. My takeaway from the Jose Vega piece, Jose kind of looks like D. Snyder. Interesting.
I'm so wasted.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to some more Rumble rants here. Why didn't, asks China Shill, why didn't Marjorie Taylor Greene vote to vacate before the vote? Could
That's
it be
what I
that
want to
she's playing
know.
her part in the political theater by feigning dissent? That's my opinion. Could be. Well, she said as much.
I don't get it.
Well, she gave a quote to the press that she might not move to vacate because it's a campaign year. She doesn't want to cause that much trouble in the home stretch of a campaign. Now she says she's going to. We'll see. But it's a good question because if she knew, because
too late now.
Johnson warned before Easter that he was going to bring a standalone Ukraine vote after Easter. He said that. It's not like he sprang this on them at the last second. He signaled he was going to sell out a few weeks before he did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Now who cares?
Right. Exactly.
What difference does it make?
Right.
Damage is done.
They got
the TikTok bill through. They got the FISA expansion through. They got all the military aid through. Who gives a shit if you vacate now? What good does it do?
$60 billion. Don't forget, they had only passed, what was it, $114 billion before that? So they passed another year's worth of funding. I mean, if 114 sustained them 2 years, you figure 60 can get them another year. Get them well past November, well past January, right? And so at this point, this becomes the next president's problem, assuming Biden loses. And if Biden wins, they're good. Now they're gold, right? Because if Biden wins and the Republicans keep the House, are Democrats they going to back him again? Why wouldn't they?
I think Ukraine.
Keep that glory hole open.
Keep the 24 hours a day. I think Ukraine is being set up to be the Davos laboratory for all their craziest, you will own nothing and be happy ideas. The problem is there are still people living there, but not by the time they're done.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're not kidding. All right, let's keep going here. Dan Richmond got boots on the ground at Columbia, and the Jewish students not feeling safe is eerily familiar with the PMC libs not feeling safe because they saw a 5-year-old in 2021 without a mask. Yes, thank you, Dan. Roy the Goy. Russell, I would like to compliment you on eschewing a slovenly appearance by always maintaining a fresh, clean-shaven image. You never look grizzled, unkempt, or poorly attired. There you go.
That is fucking news to me, my friend.
Yeah.
No, you are right. I almost always take a shower and a shave like right before the show. Part of the reason for that is actually I take a cold shower to kind of jack up my energy before the show.
There you go. That's a good idea. Idea. Okay, looks like we got time for one more today. This is the big one, so buckle up, boys and girls. Dozens arrested at Yale and NYU as pro-Palestinian student protests spread. So obviously the Gaza Solidarity encampment at Columbia University was the first, and given the police crackdown on that, a bunch of other sister solidarity protests, if you will, sprung up at prestigious universities around the country. Police arrested dozens of people at pro-Palestinian demonstrations at Yale University in Connecticut and New York University in Manhattan as student protests over Israel's war in Gaza continue to roil U.S. campuses. On the Yale University campus in New Haven, authorities arrested at least 47 protesters on Monday evening, the university said in a statement. Students who were arrested will be referred for disciplinary action. The police crackdowns came after Columbia University canceled in-person classes on Monday in response to protesters setting up tent encampments at its New York City campus last week. Several hundred people had been protesting on the Yale University campus, demanding the university divest from military weapons manufacturers. Yale said it had repeatedly asked students to leave and warned them they could face law enforcement and disciplinary action if they didn't. In New York, officers moved on an encampment at Gould Plaza near NYU shortly after nightfall. There, too, hundreds of demonstrators had defied university warnings that they faced consequences if they failed to vacate the plaza. Video on social media showed police taking down tents in the protesters' encampment in a tense and at times chaotic scene. Some officers tossed tents and others grappled with demonstrators. Protesters tussled with officers and chanted, "We will not stop, we will not rest, disclose, divest." A New York police spokesperson said arrests were made after the university asked police to enforce trespassing violations, but the total number of arrests and citations would remain unknown until much later. The Washington Square News, the student newspaper, reported that the NYPD said over a loudspeaker announcement that students were being arrested for disorderly conduct and that protesters were unlawfully blocking traffic. The law enforcement actions at Yale and NYU came after a tense few days on campuses across the U.S. Columbia University President Namat Minouche Shafik called in New York police last week to clear a tent encampment, as we covered, on its main lawn of students demanding the university divest from companies with ties to Israel. More than 100 students were arrested on Thursday on charges of trespassing, and the university and the affiliated Barnard College have suspended dozens of students involved in the protests. On Monday, Columbia announced it was canceling in-person classes on its New York City campus to try and reset the situation and, quote, de-escalate the rancor. A new encampment has now emerged, and hundreds of faculty members have held a mass walkout to protest against the president's handling of the situation. So let's take a look at this walkout moment at Columbia. This was a faculty walkout. So that's a pretty impressive crowd out there, given this is after the police cracked down on 2 separate protests, because they first raided the encampments on the day of the testimony, whatever that was, Thursday, and then they had another round of arrests over the weekend. Bassem Kawaha, I think I said that name right, Kawaha, an adjunct lecturer at Columbia Law School and supervising attorney at the school's human rights clinic, told The Guardian she was shocked and appalled that the president went immediately to the New York Police Department. This was, by all accounts, a nonviolent protest, she said. It was a group of students camping out on the lawn in the middle of campus. It's not any different from everyday life on campus. After the crackdown at Columbia, students across the U.S. launched their own protests in solidarity, many of them calling for their universities to back a ceasefire in Gaza and divest from companies with ties to Israel. Students at Brown, Princeton, and Northwestern held protests on Friday and over the weekend. Students at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Emerson College, both in the Boston area, have started their own protest encampments. Other institutions that saw protest actions included Boston University, University of California, Berkeley, and University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Here's a scene from outside NYU of the cops breaking up the protest. This is pretty chaotic, as you can see.
University to leave the area. Please leave the plaza. This is the New York City Police Department. You have been warned by New York University to leave the area. Please leave the plaza now, or you will be arrested for trespass.
Institutions of higher learning, right? What a pastoral environment, right? This is where you learn the value of democracy. This is where you learn what a threat guys like Donald Trump are to democracy. You have been charged with trespassing. You must vacate the plaza, or you will be arrested. It's like this is hell. This is like modern hell. This is a dystopia. Like, this could have been a scene in that Civil War movie that we reviewed very easily. I mean, this is a collapse.
We're going to see more and more of this. You know, when me and Jose did the Rachel Maddow thing, that was what, a week and a half after October 7th. At that time, you know, I went over with Jose the possibilities of being arrested and what they can and can't arrest you for. And in the end, they don't need a reason. Disorderly conduct is a catch-all category they love to use when they don't really have a reason. And then, hey, if the judge tosses it, they toss it. But if you've ever been to jail, it's not a fun experience. So at the very least, they fucked with you. They made you sit in that cell for 1 to 3 days, laying on your, side on a cold concrete floor to sleep until you finally saw a judge. It's not a fucking picnic. And they'll do it to break your balls and to discourage people from protesting. I think the chances when me and Jose did that with Maddow, this was all new. They weren't thinking like that. Now, I think you'd have a pretty good chance of getting arrested if you do that going forward. We saw, it wasn't in New York, but we saw the protesters who protested. Chelsea Handler got arrested.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to throw out those constitutional niceties, just like they did in the Vietnam era. This is very much history, at the very least, rhyming.
Yeah, and that reminds me of a point that Nick made last night on RBN. It was a great point. He said that these college students at these like prestigious universities, they are class traders in the best sense of the word, because he said they're using their class privilege to sort of highlight an issue in a way that puts them at less danger than you would be if you were a poor kid. Like the cops, even if the cops arrest these kids will be all right, right? Their parents will have the bail money and they'll get out and they'll deal with it. Also, a cop is a lot less likely to bash the head in of a rich kid than they are to bash the head in of a poor kid, because if you bash a rich kid's head in from Yale, their parents will sue your ass. Yeah, right, exactly. And so these kids are able to push the limits of this fascist system further than working class kids would be able to.
This is just reality. I've said this before. I've been arrested, never for anything really serious, several times. And I am always the only white person in the cell. Now you're gonna tell me that black and brown people commit crime at a 99 times higher rate than white people? Come on, man. So that is a good, example of the different levels of justice that you're subjected to. There is a class element. You're definitely much more likely to be arrested if they see you working a kind of job where they know you don't have connections, that you're working class. They might go after you. So there is a class element, but there's also a big race element as well. So yeah, when you got these mostly white Columbia students, they are the least in danger from the police of anybody in society. If you look at who ends up in a jail cell, and I can speak to New York City where this story is, yeah, they definitely target people. I don't even think it's necessarily racism per se in a lot of cases, because a lot of those cops doing that are black. They are targeting people who they know they're not going to face repercussions for arresting.
Right. Well, that's what you would call institutional
connected.
racism, right? It's not personally motivated, on an individual basis, but it is institutional, right, in nature. But yeah, no, these kids are able to push the limits, and they are. And so here they are.
Please leave the plaza now, or you will be arrested for trespass.
Plaza! The plaza! They don't know! They don't know! That these are our streets! That these are our streets! So flood the streets for Gaza! So flood the streets for
Good on these kids, man. It's amazing. And this is what futuristic dystopia looks like. It doesn't look futuristic in the moment because it's present. But if 15 years ago you saw footage like that, you would think this is some sort of Orwellian sci-fi universe.
To me, it's a throwback. It reminds me of the Vietnam era, especially
but
with
look
so
at the
much
gear
of it
they got
focused.
now. Look at the militarization of the
That's
police. I mean, they look like an occupying army now.
Sure.
They don't look like cops with the wooden sticks
they
and
used
the
to
hats.
come out in riot gear back in
they had
those
riot
days
gear,
too.
sure.
They used to. Especially this being focused on Columbia, which was the focus in New York of the Vietnam era protests.
Yes.
They would shut down the campus all the time. I mean, this is nothing compared to the Vietnam era protests. And as we were talking about on Jimmy's yesterday, hopefully this will grow into that. During that era, at its height, 1/3 of college campuses were shut down by protests every day.
Yep.
If we get there, maybe we can actually stop this thing.
Yeah. No. Amen. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, here we are. Okay. Next slide. Oh, yeah, this is fun. Okay, so this was a tweet that went mega viral. So this was, as of this morning.
Is great.
Yeah, so when I put this slideshow together, which was an hour and a half prior to the show, this was at 30.9 million views. So this is getting out there. I mean, this is a viral video that this guy tweeted out thinking he was making a point. Turns out is one of the most epic self-owns in the history of social media. He says, "My wife is a brave Jew. We stood alone at Yale University today. She wore no mask and was proud." Now, again, by wore no mask, they know, and this is apparently common knowledge. The people wear masks because they don't want to be seen. So his point is she's not afraid to have her image and likeness seen. Notice the horde hiding behind their masks. So here's the video of this woman going up with a T-shirt that says Jew on it, clearly trying to provoke a response so they can prove that these campus protests are dangerous and that they're there to harass people and that they're anti-Semitic, right? That's clearly why you would go there and put out a video like this.
It really shows what a bubble these people live in.
Yeah.
Like, really? What did you think was going to happen? Filthy Juden!
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what the fuck did you really think was going to happen when you went there? They're just insane.
Insane. So here she is. Standing bravely.
Hans, it's a Jew! Quick, get her!
Nobody paying much mind to her. Nobody comes up to her. Nobody bothers her. Nobody yells at her. Nobody spits on her. Look, you have some people behind her. We'll get a closer look at that sign in a little while. Drum circle, people dancing in the background. She's standing there like she's like staring down a hostile army that's going to attack her. Nobody's paying her any mind. Now, that one, she stays silent, but there's another video where she tries to incite some sort of confrontation. Yeah. Like, she's clearly there to troll and try and instigate a reaction so that this could have gone viral for the opposite reason. Look at the savage, Free Palestine protesters at Yale. This was on the Yale campus. Look at what they did to this poor woman. That's clearly what she was trying to incite. So here she is.
I am suggesting right now for our end of the year awards, we have to do the best cell phone of the year. Because now we have this. We have the end wokeness guy showing that fries went up 5 cents when they increased the minimum wage.
This is up there. Yeah, those two are definitely neck and neck. Yeah, for sure. So here she is. Okay, so the silent, defiant pose didn't really work. Nobody cared. So now she's going to start yelling at people, trying to get them to give a shit about her. Before we start, just understand, acting like she's the only Jew there, proving this is not a safe space for Jews. Well, look at the sign right next to her. Jews for a free Palestine. So, like, right next to her, you see Jews.
How stupid do you have to be?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, I'm assuming her husband filmed this. How stupid is your husband that he thinks this works for the propaganda? Like, why would you want to demonstrate the point that you're trying to disprove, which is that Jews can attend the protest and not have a problem? Like, why would you want it known that there's Jews there with the Jews for Free Palestine? The whole point of this is to prove how anti-Semitic these protesters are. All right? So anyway, now we get the Jews for a Free Palestine, and now here she goes.
I am not afraid. Look at my
I love the guy in the hoodie dancing in the background.
I am not afraid.
I'm not afraid. He's dancing.
My face on camera.
Show my face. The guy's standing. It's so great that he's in the frame dancing with the drum circle in the background, and she's trying to start a fight with them.
I don't know. Those people in the drum circle look shifty.
It's fucking hilarious.
Completely ignored.
Nobody pays her any mind whatsoever. She doesn't even get a heckler. Because the people there are not stupid. They know she's trying to provoke them.
Right.
They know not to take the bait, and they don't have an interest in taking the bait. There are Jews there. There are Jews at the protest. I've been to the protest. Russell's been to the protest. You got Jews there saying, "Here we are, Jews for Free Palestine." Like, she's there making a point.
Jewish Voice for Peace took over fucking Grand Central Terminal. They shut down train traffic for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, and then how indoctrinated do you have to be? Because that's what this is. They're indoctrinated. They're so indoctrinated by the idea that this is all driven by anti-Semitism that they really thought, wow, this is going to be really dangerous. But hey, we have to take a stand because Germany or something.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
And they went out and did it. And not only did they do it, they're so in their fucking head. They didn't realize how ridiculous they would look if they put out this video. They actually thought this video demonstrated their bravery. You have to be so fucking brainwashed to just not see what's in front of you, that your thesis is wrong. They just didn't even see that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point. Like, if you went there to try and provoke a negative response and it didn't work,
they kept dancing.
You think you would say, all right, well, that didn't go the way we want. I guess I'll just keep this on my phone and not tweet it out. But no, he tweets it out.
No.
Look at this. This is just so funny. I love the dancer in the background. And he didn't even think to crop out the dancer from the frame.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just so good.
Dogs me!
Not me.
Dogs me!
Dox me. That's what I'm saying.
Dox me.
Oh, you doxed yourself. I feel bad for you. I really do. You should have worn a mask because it would have been easier to live this down. You should have put the mask on. You really should have. I mean, that is too bad. All right, so here's some good responses. I love this. This was a good meme. That was good. Well done. Thank you for proving what we've been saying, says OJ. Yes. Indeed. Thank you for proving what we've been saying, which is that we're not violent. We're not going to harass you. We're not going to intimidate you. We're going to let you make an idiot of yourself because you insist on making yourself the ultimate victim, even as tens of thousands of women and children are slaughtered, and the people there are peacefully trying to stop it as best they can. This just calls attention to that Jews for Free Palestine sign, but this is narcissistic behavior. The people in the photo behind her, those are the truly courageous Jewish people. But, folks, I'm not just brown-nosing. I'm not just saying this because he's my friend. The reason he's my friend, one of the reasons he's my friend, is because he fires off responses like this, is our friend Nick Cruz. Can you imagine if a Palestinian did this at a pro-fascist Israel rally? It would get violent quick. That's the difference between us and you monsters. Yes,
you know
exactly
what?
Right.
You're absolutely right. And part of that is because of the indoctrination this woman is showing. Like looking at that. Okay, when I was there on October 8th, the day after the attack, on the Jewish counter-protester side, they were obsessed with accusing the pro-Palestine protesters of anti-Semitism. There was a woman walking around trying to wrangle Jews. I want to yell, you hate Jews. I want to yell, you hate Jews. And she would get other people. Yeah, I'll yell it. And they all get together. You hate Jews. They're obsessed with this premise and refuse to examine anything through any other lens. That's how you wind up this blind to reality, that you would not only do this, tweet it, not realizing you made a fool out of yourself. They didn't even realize that.
Yeah. Amazing. Just absolutely amazing. But what's amazing on a good note is that these sister solidarity protests have sprouted up. And, once the cops come in and start dragging protesters out at one university, that could have a chilling effect on other protests. But it's had the opposite, thankfully. Like these kids of all right, you're going to come for them, you're going to have to come for me now.
It can have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
It can have the opposite effect. But I think you're going to see a lot more of this. I think, when I get back to New York, I am assuming this is going on. Frankly, I assume it's probably going to have grown. I read actually this started at the new school now. I think it's going to spread throughout campuses in New York. I'm going to go out to cover this, and I think, you're going to see them arresting, just like in the Vietnam era, man. They arrest them. Any pretense, disorderly conduct. It's just hit them with disorderly conduct, trespassing, whatever.
Yep.
Whatever. It doesn't matter to the cop doing it if the judge dismisses it. The point is to demoralize the protesters.
Yeah. But as you said, it's having the opposite effect. These kids are saying, all right, well, I guess we're going to do this. And this signals a certain breakdown in the social order too, and in this case, it kind of works to the advantage. Like these kids they don't seem to be very deterred by whatever consequences are hanging over their heads: suspension, expulsion, rescinding job offers. At this point, these kids seem willing to go down with the ship. They're like, you know what? If Colombia was my ticket to success within this system, but this system relies on the slaughter of Arab women and children because they're Arab, then I don't want any part of it. And there's something inspiring about that because they're not just demanding that their colleges divest from Israel. They are themselves, in a very material way, not an abstract way at all, they are divesting from the system that they bought into by enrolling at these universities in the first place. And that takes guts. It takes balls, and good on them for it.
Yep. I mean, we need, as Nick pointed out, we particularly need the children of this class to create this kind of dissonance, because in the end, that was part of what turned the tide in the Vietnam era, because too many rich people's kids were getting locked up.
Right.
Too many of their own kids were getting arrested.
Yep.
That's also what turned the tide on. They were arresting people and giving them 20 years for a joint.
Yep.
But what do you do when it's the kids from Yale and Harvard who are getting arrested for a joint?
Exactly. exactly. S. Edison, happy Passover, guys. Can you advise me what books I should buy for my kid? Think Like a Voter, A Kid's Guide to Shaping Our Country's Future by David Pakman, or Who Pooped on Me by David Cunliffe. Definitely Who Pooped on Me, no doubt. If it's narrowed down to those two, then yes, I would go with Who Pooped on Me. They'll get a lot more use out of that.
How about Is It a Friendly Horse by Vosh?
There you go. Have you considered that one?
Yeah.
Hey guys, still trying to get a t-shirt from last year. Sent several Patreon messages and super chats, so please look into this. I still want it.
You know, man, I keep calling the fulfillment center. This fucking guy, he's a jerk off. He's got a fucking 2 kids. He got another one on the way. I think I got to replace this guy.
Yeah, right. No, something must have happened with the shipping, because I know I sent it out to you, Tyler, but I will look into it.
Oh, you sent it to him?
Yeah, because I sent everything and then I double checked. But the website that we use, they handle everything. You just give them the information and they ship the stuff out. But I will look into that. I promise.
And for anyone waiting on their Mardi Gras gear, when I get back from here, as you all know, I've been back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But I'll be home for a solid chunk of time. I will take care of it.
Got it. Did you see the Pelosi rant? Oh, it was rich. Yes. Well, we did that last night on the Jimmy Dore show. Yeah, so I think the clip is up on Rumble and YouTube now. We did that on the Jimmy Dore show last night. Yeah, that was quite something. S. Edison. All right, I'm not going to read that one. That's a little too mean, but thank you. Appreciate that. That's a good one. I saw that. I appreciate it, but that might be a little mean for prime time. Trump's still hanging around the wrong people, like friend of the show, Lindsey Graham. Will Trump ever learn? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Alan Manelli, thanks for the €5. Nancy Pelosi was honored at University College Dublin last night. Why? €500 per person head gala dinner. Disgusting. We turned out to protest anyway. Oh, good. Where's the video?
Really?
Did nobody film it? You got to film it. Yeah, we need some video of that, because that would do well, especially for Thursday. That's our Euro show, so we want to feature that if that happened. But thank you. Appreciate that.
Which university was it?
It was in Ireland.
It was in Ireland
somewhere.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was €5, and it was in Ireland. Here's ruthless criticism. Have either of you ever read Karl Marx's On the Jewish Question, often painted as anti-Semitic, but a very interesting critique of the intersection of German liberalism in the context of the actual pervasive anti-Semitism of those he was critiquing? I have not read that ruthless criticism, but yes, you get a cowbell for that. And, I should read that, actually. That would be a good book. Maybe I'll get that one for my kids. That would be a good thing to read them.
Yeah, well, it's Passover. You should really read that instead of the 3 questions.
It's a good Passover reads, yeah, for the little ones. Yeah. But no, on a serious note, thank you for the generous donation. And yes, I will, actually. It's a good idea now that you mention it. Thanks for the $5, SB. Any MAGA person that still supports Israel is everything liberals called them in 2016. New atheists, too. They're just like evangelicals they hate. Yep. Tara Brates, Megyn Kelly's video with Glenn Greenwald, Whether America Should Help Israel, has 2,700 comments, mostly supporting Glenn from what I see. So you're talking about the one from her YouTube channel, because YouTube turned the comments off of that video, of our video, when we were commenting on it. And then the same person who alerted me to that also alerted them to the fact that comments were mysteriously disabled on another one of Greenwald's videos that he posted to YouTube.
Really?
So who the hell knows? Yeah, but that's weird.
Who knows what's going on with them, Matt? Hey, that's why everyone's trying to build out a platform on Rumble.
That's why. Because
who knows with these fucking fruitcakes?
It's fucked up because, when you turn the comments off to the point where they're not even readable, you've basically censored everyone who commented on that, because now their comments are gone. So if we had, because that video had 40,000 views, I'm sure there were about 1,000 comments. So if 20 of them are unacceptable, why not just, if you're going to be a censorious bastard, just censor the 20? Why turn it off? And then you censor the 900 that were not problematic. I don't understand it.
And it also really doesn't make any sense, because I will say, I used to mix it up in the comments a lot. Now it's very rare, and it's completely changed. Now, if I want to forget about saying something about fornicating with somebody's sister or mother or aunt, no way. But even things that are really mild, for no apparent reason, like you could go to like the mildest language, and it'll take it down.
Yeah.
So why would you need to turn comments off when you've got the filter set on such a hair trigger?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And there were a lot of and that also kills the video because the algorithms, not that we know what the algorithm is, but it's common knowledge that like social media algorithms rely on engagement. The more people are commenting and engaging with the video, the more the algorithm is going to shoot it out.
Pushes
so when you turn the comments off, that really slows the momentum of the video.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't understand why that happened, but there's no way for me to look into it because I can't even read the comments. Like, they don't alert us when they delete a comment on a video. They just take it off.
No.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of people ask us, why'd you delete my comment? You think we have time to delete people's comments?
Do they still?
Every once in a while you get that. But you really think we have time? We're doing 4 shows a week. We're doing 20 segments a week. We got the Jimmy thing. We got all this stuff in the air. You think we go read through the thousands of comments we get and start censoring people? No. If that happens, it's because, the algorithm caught it or AI, whatever. But yeah, on the Greenwald thing, they just got rid of the whole comment section. And now it makes us look bad because it makes us look like we undid the comments because we got ratio.
Right, like we
because the
shut it
Vanguard
off.
guys.
And why would we do that?
Exactly. Like when the Vanguard guys caught the ratio on the Mate thing, they turned the comments off because they just didn't want to deal with the negative bashing. Right. So now people think we did that with the Greenwald thing, and we didn't. Very unfair. Very unfair. But anyway, on balance, we still love YouTube. Thank you very much to Google. We love you.
Gold just fired another 20 workers.
I'm sure they deserved it. You have 20 seconds to comply. ED209. Thank you, Sparky. Look up MLM. Yeah. Look up MLM Patrick Bet David Dude's a scam artist. Well, yeah, I'm sure he is. I mean, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
Oh, is he a multi-level marketing
exudes
guy? Is that what he comes
scam
out
artist
of?
aura? Yeah. Yeah. You want to go take when you buy your first 20 dresses from a LuLaRoe, you rent a craft fair booth and you move the first 20 products, then we'll send you 40 more.
Yeah.
And eventually you get stuck.
Is that his background?
No, I don't know. I mean,
never
LuLaRoe,
even looked into it.
No, when I was doing craft fairs, LuLaRoe was the big thing. That was a multi-level marketing clothing scheme. And it was infuriating because LuLaRoe was so in fashion. It was like women's clothing, like kind of inexpensive, but kind of like nice summer clothes. And it was a multi-level marketing thing. And whoever had the LuLaRoe at the craft fair would kill. And it kind of sucked for everybody because if it wasn't a juried show and you didn't have to make the product that you sold, you feel kind of like an asshole because like you make what you're selling and you're bringing it to market. And then these people who just got these boxes off a truck are cleaning up. They're raking in money. And it's like, God damn it, this fucking blows. Because not only are they taking in money, but people don't have infinite pockets. What they spend on the dress, they're not going to spend on this.
It's dresses.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't exist anymore because all of these things go in and go out. So maybe it exists, but it's not a thing anymore.
Right.
And what happened to almost all of these LuLaRoe people is they made a ton of money on the front end, but then on the back end, once the craze dies down, they get stuck with all this shit they can't sell.
They get stuck with a garage full of dresses.
Right. And LuLaRoe makes all the money because they sold you all that shit that now you can't sell. Right. So that's why it is a scheme. It is basically a scam at the end of the day. And that's how they lure people in because the MLM scams, like, something catches on and becomes a fad. You're raking in money, buying this shit cheap online and then selling it. But then once it goes out of fashion, you're stuck with all the product. The company has already offloaded the product at wholesale prices to you, and now it's on you to move. And if you can't move it, then you're stuck with it.
A friend of mine got sucked in for a minute to the Amway thing. And he gave me the book that they give you, which, it has the name of an author like Cameron Hedges or something. And as soon as I started reading it, I said to my friend, this person doesn't exist. Like this was written by a team. This was written by a committee. And it was so sad to me the way it was done. It was really written to hit the psychological vulnerabilities of frustrated working people. They say the mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open. Are you tired of working for somebody else and seeing them get all the rewards when you have all the ideas. Like, it's really just constructed to hit a frustrated, broke working person's resentments and get them to push your product, which, you know, I mean, it's just such a terrible thing to do to people.
Yeah, no, for sure. Sparky, thanks for the $10, says poor people are targeted, sort of universal. Drive a beat-up car in a rich neighborhood, and you're much, much more likely to be pulled over. That's true, despite not breaking any laws or giving any probable cause.
Sure. You know, when I was like a punk kid, I mentioned at the top of the show, and thank you, Basil, for asking if I was stealing Model Ts. No. Although I will, you want like an old man story about how we used to steal cars back then? You used a slap hammer back then, which, you know, you slap out dents with that, but it also works for taking out the ignition. So I'm sure they're built in a way that you can't do that anymore. The only cars that didn't work on were GM cars. So for those, you needed a GM tool, which, you know, was like a business. That was like an investment. You had to pay like $90 to get the GM tool if you really wanted to upgrade so you could steal GM cars. But the way I got treated when I was like a kid from the street by cops, completely different from the way I got treated later on when I owned theaters. I know because I got arrested under both circumstances. And when I got arrested as a punk, they do shit to you, man. Forget about the fucking Constitution, man. They don't read you your rights. They don't read you your rights. And then they'll use things that you said before they read you your rights against you later and say they did read the rights. They put the handcuffs on me 4 sizes too tight and left me in the cell like that. When I got arrested as a theater owner, they rushed me out in 12 hours as soon as I told them what I did and where I had to be.
Oh yeah, no, certainly. But and also, like you said earlier, Russell, like you can't ignore the racial element either. Like when I grew up in a middle class suburb, my dad, white guy, always drove shitty cars. We'd always get like used minivans, used like station wagons. They were always fucking dinged up and beat up. He never got pulled over in his neighborhood. Our African-American neighbor drove Lincolns. Like he drove nice cars. He got pulled over a few times.
Right. Sure.
For no reason.
That is
they ask him where you
definitely an
going.
element.
He says, I live here. Here's my license with the address. They say, okay, go ahead. Right. And he drove a nicer car than us.
If you're poor and white, they will do things to you that they won't do if they think you're middle class or above and white. But they will do things to you if you're black, even if you are middle class or above, that they would never even dream of doing to a white person in that social station. Sure.
Yep, indeed. Looking for her 30 seconds of fame, says Hesham MK. Yes, she thought they're the cannibals that ate Biden's uncle. Yeah, she was trying to provoke them. Yes, thank you, Hesham. Appreciate that. KDK7, MSM calls it the Israel-Hamas war, but it's actually Israel's war and the Palestinian people. Yes, hopefully propaganda only works for so long. I always refer to it as the Israel-Gaza war. I don't call it the Israel-Hamas war because I agree. They're not targeting Hamas. They're targeting the entity of Gaza. Absolutely. Josh Daniel, did you guys see Brianna had Zed Jelani? No, we didn't. We must have missed that. Yeah, no, of course we. Yeah, about 65 people messaged us about it, but I kid.
I'm down
to only double down on her hubris and alienate her audience
like
further. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm on like the last 10. Yeah, I'm on like the last 10 minutes. I thought you were done. I'm on like the last 10 minutes of that video. What the fuck is wrong with her, man?
Yeah,
what is wrong with her? Take the fucking L. And she lies and distorts throughout that video about what went on in the first interview. A little over a year ago, I took some clips from that with our interview on JD with Matt. She completely lies and distorts what happened in that exchange. And she cuts out all the parts that make her look like a ding-dong. And she only uses parts, which, again, her framing is really off. To say, okay, I'm not taking anything away from Lee Fang. He's a fine reporter. I've gotten a lot out of his work. but to say that what Li Fang uncovered about the Pentagon is significant, and Matt Taibbe and Schellenberger and even Barry Weiss, before she was off the project, exposing that the government was coordinating with tech companies to censor Americans, that's just well, that wasn't as significant. Tell me again that Bree is not functionally fucking stupid. Tell me again she is not functionally stupid. Again, it's not a question of having the brain power, right? But having the hardware doesn't matter if the software is garbage. Somebody who is going to say, yeah, well, now forget about that. Why the fuck would you go back to this well, 4 times? 5 times? You get ratioed every fucking time you bring it up, and you don't have the capacity to do a little self-reflection? Maybe I'm wrong about this?
Well, this is it. So Sandy says, please cover it. If we covered it, I mean, we would basically be saying the same exact thing we said with the Taibbe segment, which is why it was so insane for her to do it again, because she's just making the same points, except not to the person she's charging with something, but to her ally, so they can shit talk the person she's trying to smear. And so they can have each other's back on every point. Like, if we did that segment, we would just be repeating pretty much word for word exactly what we said when we covered the segment that she did with Taibbe on Rising. We would say the same thing. And that's why it was so insane of her to do it. And that's why it was really low, because you're making the same points, but you're taking out of the segment
you got
the guy there who's going to actually respond with his side of the story, and you're going instead to the guy who's shit talking about Taibbe started the whole thing, right? So you're going back to a safe space where that struck me as an offline call. Like, if she were going to call Zed Jelani after the segment to vent about how it went, that's what that would be. That's not something I would put on the internet. You know what I mean?
And we love Matt Taibbe. We love him. It's not that. We just wish he would go back to doing real journalism, and he's captured by his audience, which, again, I said this when we had him on. I've been a subscriber for years. I'm not right-wing. Like, what evidence do you have? This is a factoid. You're just pulling wholesale out of your fucking ass. Do you have studies of who is subscribing to Matt Taibbe on Substack? Because I would wager it's probably a pretty broad mix of ideological perspectives, very much like our channel. Well, I would imagine his subscribers are similar.
The thing is, the underlying accusation, which is that he's been captured by his audience, which is why he puts out the kind of content he puts out, and why he chooses not to put out other kinds of content, why he doesn't cover the Israel-Gaza war, right? That's just factually, it's not true. Like, the underlying charge is not true. And I could say that for a fact, assuming Matt didn't lie to us, which I have no reason to think he did. And, you know, Russell got into this a little. I'll get into this very little because he said this to us off the record, why he doesn't cover that as much as a lot of people thinks he should. To me, it's not a good reason. Like, his reason is not a good reason. I have no problem saying that. I think it's a very small reason considering the enormity of the issue. Like, his rationale for not covering it, to me, is small, and I think he should reconsider this whole thing and think, aren't my reasons for not wanting to cover it kind of small compared to the enormity of the problem?
He's
right.
He's also giving a lot of ammunition to his critics.
Right. And so I don't like his reasoning. But his reasoning is not, as a matter of fact, financial or social, right? He's not covering it to, you know, not piss off subscribers so he doesn't lose money. That's not the reason. And it's not the reason that, you know, he's friends with Barry Weiss, for example, which I don't even know that he is friends with Barry Weiss, quite frankly. They worked together for a little while, but it doesn't seem like they're particularly close.
I don't think. Yeah, I
don't. So the underlying charge that he has corrupt motives for writing what he writes and not writing what he doesn't write, that's just not true. That's just not true. And you don't have to agree with his rationalization for these current choices. Like I said, I don't agree with his rationalization for not writing about Gaza more. I don't. I strongly disagree with it. But it's not corrupt. It's not a character.
No, it's
issue.
not. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
And yeah, I okay. Brianna Joy Gray, who fucking sits
in front of a microphone and has never done a meaningful day of fucking journalism in her fucking life, had the fucking balls to sit there with also ran Zed Jelani, who wishes he could have Matt Taibbe's career and to have broken the stories that Matt Taibbe has broken. Sit there and say, well, Matt, I could understand maybe he's a little angry because of the way he's been treated by some Democrats, but hey, journalists in other countries go through all kinds of things. Glenn got hogtied in his living room, and just completely minimized. The Taibbe keeps getting fucking brought in front of Congress. They threatened to arrest him. The IRS came to his house.
Yeah, they threatened to arrest him. They sent the IRS. They said he had perjured himself. Yeah,
they said he perjured himself. And how? Okay, so first of all, she's not telling the truth. She's just very much distorting the record throughout that entire interview. But you are talking about what journalists go through? You? What the fuck do you think you are? A journalist? You're a not very good opinionator who sits on YouTube and spouts a lot of bad takes that even your own audience doesn't agree with. And you won't let it go. And you're going to talk about Matt Taibbe hasn't been beat up enough to be angry at these people?
Yeah, no, all right. So, we said we wouldn't cover it, and we definitely won't now that we've spent that amount of time.
We basically covered it.
No real point.
Now we covered it. We should just clip that.
Yeah, there you go. Why not? Roy the Goy, I am the founder, president, and sole member of the KDL, Keaton Defamation League. Unlike the ADL, it is our mandate to encourage the harassment and defamation of Keaton. Oh, well, as long as you keep sending the $5, Roy.
That's my job.
Cheap date. Scott Ritter says there is real-time satellite footage of the genocide, says A. Peterson. Thank you. His Highness, all this talk of books made me wish I wasn't illiterate. Oh, well. You're doing all right. Roy the Goy says, I live 120 miles from NYC, but I would never step foot in Mordor. Is there any chance you might host a future live show in Ossining, Wappingers Falls, Atlantic City, or anywhere outside Metro? Well, first of all, what do you mean Wappingers Falls or Atlantic City?
In the darkest depths of Mordor.
It's interesting, Roy. So you've told us where you live before. Are you in Jersey? Because Ossining, that's like Putnam, Westchester, whatever it is. Wappingers Falls I used to live basically on the Beacon-Wappingers Falls border. So I used to live right there. Newburgh, where I'm from, is right across the river.
Yeah.
But then Atlantic City's 4 hours south, so I don't know where the hell you are. I can't put a finger on it. But we would love to do a show in the Hudson Valley. I know people there. We could probably fill 50 seats there. So maybe we will do something in the Hudson Valley.
Cool. I love it upstate.
Yeah, we can do that.
One thing at a time. We're almost assuming that this live show doesn't wind up being like a noises off political podcast edition.
Yeah, right.
We will probably do a election night live show.
Yeah.
So that's our next big thing. Now, whether we do anything in between that, we'll see.
We'll see. Depends how it goes. Yeah, exactly. A good serious pick for kids. My Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. A good message. No one right way to be human, and we are ruining our planet. Thank you, Jose Alvarado. Appreciate that. Puck971. So my nephew attends Cornell, and they are allowing students to vote on endowment investment policies and chose to liquidate from defense contractors. Interesting.
Really?
There's a poll of the Columbia student body that came out that we're probably going to cover either tomorrow or Thursday. But thank you for that, Puck. Appreciate that. When are you guys going to have Norm on again? Sometime soon. I'd love to have Norm on again.
Okay, so once I'm actually in New York for more than 10 minutes, I plan on going out to hang out with that dude. I told him last time we interviewed him I was going to come out to Coney, so
Yeah. Also insulting to her audience, which I was. Yeah, no, that she caught a pretty bad case of the ratio there for sure.
I didn't see one positive comment on that video.
It was
I literally didn't see one.
Some people mentioned us in the comments. They talked about our take a little bit. Yeah, a couple of them. The Peopled Infinite, thanks for the $5. Ratioed vids are more engagement. She might be a grifter in the real sense. GDBJG, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Keep it up, DD. You're one of the best. Thank you, Peopled Infinite. Appreciate you very much.
Hang on, I'm gonna address this, even though you're posting it multiple times, so we should just ban you for doing that. So you should stop doing it now.
Yeah, I mean, that is what is so tragic about Brianna, and that's a big part of why I call her functionally stupid. I can't call her fundamentally stupid because she's capable.
Yeah, she's obviously a smart person. Yeah.
Yeah, when she had Marianne Williamson, that was great, man. We praised her to the heavens. We're always fair here.
Dershowitz.
But, yeah, Dershowitz, she was great.
Even
with
Robbie,
that.
when she slaps Robbie around when he, says something idiotic, which is pretty often. We've done a couple of those segments too.
I think in some ways, and this is a matter of opinion, obviously. I think in some ways it's worse to have somebody like that with these kinds of takes because they build credibility when they do a good job. And then when they go stupid, people take them more seriously than they really should.
Stoop sign. I bet Taibbe punts and says there's enough criticism of Israel. He says that about covering the right and makes more sense. Should cover Gaza, though. Pure speculation. That's not what he told us. But again, I can't get more into it than that. All I could say is I don't agree with his reasoning, but it's not a corrupt.
It's not corruption.
It's not for money or for social clout. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that's our show today. Gave you guys a long one. How do you like that? Yeah, that was a good one. That was one of our best episodes in a while, I think, actually.
Yep.
If I say so myself, if I'm the only one who can compliment myself around here, I'll do it. God damn it. But no, it was a good show.
I'm joining the KDL.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Russell's joining the KDL. Exactly.
This fucking scumbag douchebag.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks, that's our show. Thank you very much. We got a doubleheader tomorrow. I'll be live with our friend Nick Cruz on Rumble exclusively tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Wednesday is Rumble Day. I'll be rumbling with Nick, and Kit might make it, actually. I invited Kit as well, but he might make it, he might not. He's doing some on the ground reporting tomorrow in Chicago. So if he's back in time, he'll join. If not, he won't. But I'll be live with Nick Cruz at 2 o'clock Eastern tomorrow on Rumble exclusively, and then I'll be remote co-hosting the Jimmy Dore Show with Russell, who will be in the host chair in the studio tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Thank you all very much for being here this afternoon. Please hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. Over on Rumble, hit that follow button on the way out. Everybody go follow us on Rumble if you're watching on YouTube, because we are on Rumble exclusively tomorrow. So if you go to rumble.com/DoDissidents, you can find us there and hit that follow button, and we will see you tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. Until then, everybody, thank you very much for today. Be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.